This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Left. We are live here in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration weekend. Thank you for everybody who is getting up so very early with us this morning. Good morning, Shano.
I'm one of those people.
Yes.
This morning I was like, really?
Yes.
Really?
After a long, wonderful, sexy liberal show last night.
Seriously, they put on a show.
Yes, they did.
Wow.
And
you know what it is? They're so used to 3-hour time slots. It was like 3 hours.
It was.
And you know what? You looked up and like, really? Is it already midnight?
Yes.
It was like, really?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was totally worth it. Best show yet. We've been to 4.
Yes, absolutely. They will be doing more shows in 2013, so be sure to check sexyliberal.com for all the information and get your tickets early because they sell out fast.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool. At one point, I think I actually tweeted this. Sitting next to Congressman Alan Grayson, and there were, so many of the regulars who appear on Steph's
Yes,
show.
it was like a family reunion.
Jim Ward on stage that, hadn't met Jim ever before, even though, the voice on the show has always been him, and, we've, connected online and had him as a guest and all that, to finally be able to meet him in person and see him perform live, doing his voices, and a great opening. And, of course, my mentor, my hero, Professor Chris Lavoie.
Yes.
Going to be here third hour. I'm so excited.
We are very excited. It is going to be one heck of a show.
That's worth getting up for.
Yes, absolutely. It's worth getting up for just to see Chris Lavoie on camera.
No doubt.
So, as usual, we wanted to play the clip of the big news this week. Maybe.
See, that's what happens when it's real early.
Along with our freedom to live our lives as we will comes an obligation to allow others to do the same. We don't live in isolation. We live in a society, a government of and by and for the people. We are responsible for each other.
Responsible for each other.
No, we're a libertarian mecca of individual go screw you because I got mine.
Well, but the key word in that
Yeah.
statement was responsible. Responsible gun legislation, responsible gun control, responsible gun ownership. However, an armed guard in Michigan was not so responsible.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes, exactly. An armed guard at the Chatfield School, a charter school in Michigan that teaches kindergarten through 8th grade students, was not responsible with his gun this week as he left it in a student bathroom.
Oh!
This is just a perfect example of why we don't need guns in schools, why...
that's not even just why we don't need them, why we shouldn't have them.
Well, this is also why we should have some, common sense gun legislation. Although this is actually a shooting instructor, he obviously does not practice responsible care with such a dangerous weapon. Now, it was an unloaded gun.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but...
Phew!
if students had gotten their hands on a gun, period, I imagine they probably could have figured out the rest.
So this is a guy who teaches gun safety.
Yeah.
And as Hal Sparks said yesterday on the show, those who can't do, teach.
Exactly. But it plays right into the responsible, nonsense that we're supposed to have. Responsible gun ownership. I don't find that very responsible. And another gentleman was not very responsible this week with his gun as he was carrying an armed rifle into JCPenney's. Cindy Jorgensen was in line to return something and took pictures of the man carrying a large assault-style weapon over his shoulder, along with a pistol on his right side and at least one additional clip. Now, the store employees say that this gentleman They report that his name is Joseph Kelly, and he's an Ogden resident in Utah. He's actually done this before as, trying to get some attention on the gun control debate. I don't care if you're the most responsible person in the world and, the government doesn't regulate guns. We don't want to be threatened while shopping by your presence there carrying a loaded assault rifle.
Yeah, maybe we need we have the Second Amendment for the right to bear arms. What about the right of us to not be around guns?
Yes.
I'm very uneasy. I've shot guns. All my family, all the way back, NRA members. My grandmother was amazing, skeet shooter. World class. I know how to use guns. I don't like being around them.
Yes.
And I don't know if I can tell this story, but I'm going to tell this story. I don't think I've ever even told you this story.
Ooh.
When I was taking care of my dad on hospice, we were doing it from his home. He passed from cancer over a decade ago. Big gun owner, lots of guns everywhere. And I got to be honest with you. He was in a lot of pain and all that. I didn't want the guns around.
Easily understandable.
When I found a handgun, it wasn't loaded, but the clip was right next to it in his bedside table. I'm like, these are going.
Yeah.
I'm getting these the hell out of here. Just for a whole lot of reasons. So I'm like, what am I going to do with these guns? I was in a state that I don't live in because I was taking care of him out of state. So I'm like, well, he's an NRA member. I'll call the NRA. Maybe they'll store them. Maybe they have a place to put them. Maybe that would be a service for their... I swear they would not do it. Would not do it.
Wouldn't even help you.
Would not help. Wouldn't give me ideas. Nothing.
Interesting. I know you haven't told me that story.
Yeah. I remember calling them, trying because I just didn't want them in the house. I also didn't want them damaged. They were valuable, and there are people in the family who will use them, and I'm sure they are now. But I just didn't want them in the house while I was taking care of them. But they were useless. Absolutely useless. I guess because I wasn't a gun manufacturer.
Yes.
So.
Victor in the chat room is asking if anyone from the Sexy Liberal Show fans will be on Talking Left. We tried, Victor, dragging them kicking and screaming, but it's very early, and the show was very exciting. And as you can imagine, people were partying it up.
Oh, yeah. And
at DC.
We left early.
Yes.
It was still going strong, and we left at 12:30.
Yes.
We get up at 5 to do this. So,
yes.
And some people are flying out today, too.
Yeah.
Some people.
We got to hang out with Rocky Mountain Mike.
Think about this. There's an inauguration tomorrow of our president in this very city. They flew in
for
to see
Sexy Liberal.
Stephanie Miller and the Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour and are getting the heck out of here.
Well, they have their priorities straight.
Those are great priorities.
Absolutely.
Well, same thing with your dad.
Yes.
The inauguration we knew about for a very long time.
Yes. As soon as Sexy Liberal Comedy Show was announced, my phone started ringing.
Yep.
Yes.
Can I come to D.C.?
Well, and with it being inauguration weekend, one really cool day that Obama has instituted is a National Day of Service. He's the first president to request the people around the country submit their time towards a National Day of Service, volunteering to help their fellow Americans. He started this process at his first inauguration, and he has said he hopes that this initiative carries on with future presidents. But thousands of people around the country this weekend volunteered to help others in the spirit of inauguration.
That's fantastic.
Some really great stories of that, and I'm sure there are thousands more. In Washington, D.C., volunteers will prepare 10,000 care packages for soldiers, veterans, and first responders. Very cool. In New York City, Mayor Bloomberg and city agencies will be, coordinating a big volunteer project to help those affected by Hurricane Sandy. Volunteers who signed up in California will give food and winter coats to the homeless, which is a big deal considering the cold weather they've had recently. In Chicago, service members will gather at Navy Pier to write letter and put together care packages for members who are still serving overseas. And 62 AmeriCorps members in Oklahoma will travel to a neighborhood once segregated by Jim Crow laws to repair homes for low-income families.
That's amazing stuff.
Isn't it?
Occupiers helping with Sandy. And what are the gun nuts doing? Oh, they're having Gun Appreciation Day.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had to bring it back there.
Oh, we're going to get there. We are so getting there, and I can't wait to hear what Chris and
tote around your AK or help your fellow, citizen, your fellow human.
Right.
I'm going to go with the second part. And that's great. I remember President Obama doing this a number of times. Days of service.
Yes. He and Michelle went and it helped repair and fix up local schools in the area. They were photographed. You can check out the photograph at NBCnews.com. They were painting bookshelves for Burville Elementary School in Washington, D.C. themselves. And you can see the picture of them physically getting in there.
Propaganda.
Yes. But I think it's awesome when we go out and help our fellow Americans, as a National Day of Service. And I think it's awesome, to bring it back to Sexy Liberal, that in each and every show, for anybody who doesn't know, they donate a portion of the proceeds to a great charity in the area.
Last night was the Brady campaign.
Yeah.
Against gun violence.
They do
Brady.
awesome work and bring attention to great issues. And I really love this spirit of helping one another. And I think that's really the most effective way to move this country forward.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Well said.
And in hilarious news, this was this was a story that I haven't seen anywhere else, and I simply thought it was awesome.
Well, that's what we do here in the first segment.
We try to. Some of those people may have seen.
You even surprise me.
I don't know if you've heard of this one.
I don't know.
Did anybody hear Stephen Colbert's sister will be running for Congress in South Carolina?
Oh, I did hear this. That's awesome.
Yes. Elizabeth, she pronounces it Colbert Bush. Elizabeth Colbert Bush, Stephen Colbert's sister, his older sister, will run as a Democrat in the special election to fill the House seat, to fill the congressional seat vacated by, what's his name?
Tim.
No, idiot going to run for...
The Senate.
Yeah. But he stepped in for... Who was it? Never mind.
Jim DeMint.
Thank you. That's the name I was looking for. Insert hypocrite right-winger here.
Who works now, I think, next door.
Yes, but she is a 58-year-old businesswoman, and she works at a wind turbine facility. She will be running as a Democrat in the race against several different Republican candidates. And while many have speculated that Stephen Colbert will, finance this campaign, he, in fact, is limited to the same $2,500 individual contribution as anyone else. And since he has shut down his super PAC, Americans for a Better Tomorrow, he cannot even assist her with the super PAC. So,
well, there's one thing doing it for a spoof, and there's another thing to seriously get involved, especially with a family member.
Yeah.
There's the character, and then there's the person, the real person. I don't believe that for a second he would do that.
Well, we certainly wish her the best.
Although the pure notoriety gives name recognition immediately, which is so important when it comes to running these races.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, luck. I can't wait to hear more about what she stands for, what she's going to be doing there.
Yes. Apparently, she's probably not going to be as far left as some of us on this show would like.
South Carolina.
She has voted in, according to the South Carolina Election Commission, she's voted in the Republican primaries in 2000, 2002, 2004, and 2010.
Is she not as crazy as Jim DeMint and Lindsey Graham?
That's a low bar.
I
don't think she is.
Progress, don't need perfection. Progress is
I
good.
think it's awesome, and we wish her the best, and may South Carolina get...
Wise up.
Yeah, a Democrat in there. Who knows? The name recognition could actually bring some change.
Sure. At least a microphone so that then she can say what she stands for.
Yes.
So I like that. Cool. Good story.
Yes. And in another good story, a victory for transgender privacy and all of us around the nation, as the TSA is abandoning their nude body scanners.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, what's Chertoff going to do for spare change now?
I think he'll find other means to violate our privacy. But he won't do it in airports anymore. Yes, they have announced that they will remove all body scanners that show the nearly nude images that have embarrassed many, violated many people's privacy rights, but have particularly caused a problem and been invasive for transgender people. They were even offered an opportunity to change the software so that they were not so invasive, but they were unable to meet the timeline. So now 174 remaining machines will be removed.
Really?
Yes, they've already...
Can we throw the voting machines on the same truck that hauls them out of town?
I think that's a great idea.
We can go melt them down with the over in Ireland with their voting machines?
I think that's a fabulous idea.
You know, they used to, you know, the crazies on the right used to burn books. Let's melt down some voting machines and TSA nudie scanners.
Yes. Well, the scanners have been, as I said, particularly invasive for transgender people because of the conflict of what one's exterior image versus the X-ray, the discrepancy, so-called, produce. But very good news for all of us to not be subjected to this invasion of privacy, and especially for the rights of transgender people around the country.
Have you ever gone through one of those?
No.
I did when we came back from Netroots up in Rhode Island.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
And what can you report?
I can report that's exactly what it looks like on the television. Who knows? There could be pictures out there, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an article up on Think Progress that was posted on January 18th where you can really see what these images look like and how invasive they are. It's pretty much like somebody taking a nude picture of you.
Yeah, it is.
So, and this is particularly good news this week, as this is issue that was worked on quite heavily by Aaron Swartz, who was in the news this week for very sad reasons, as he has committed suicide. Aaron Swartz, for anybody who does not know, was an internet pioneer, activist, and open source, open information activist. He took his own life this week at the age of 26 in response to some very, very overzealous prosecutors. We're going to get into that.
And you know what? This is one of those things where the left and the right are actually agreeing.
I know. It's almost scary.
We were watching the Journal editorial report, as we always report on, and there were some of the opinion page people were saying that the prosecution was overzealous.
Yes.
Of course, their conclusion is Eric Holder's a jerk, and
Yeah, they're doing it for different reasons, but I don't care.
If Daryl Ice is going after him, wow.
Right.
That's some strange bedfellows, but
We're going to get into that next and talk to our next guest up in just a few minutes, a little bit about it. Great guest today, Kyle Shank of KyleShank.com, Donate Your Account, and Fans FM. He is an amazing internet pioneer, activist, blogger, doing amazing work out there.
Really nice guy.
Yes, we're very excited to talk to him. We're going to be speaking with Ian Millhiser of Think Progress a little later today. And then third hour, we're going to have Chris Lavoie of The Stephanie Miller Show. And maybe even one more surprise guest.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So.
No pressure.
No pressure. We're going to be right back here on Talking Left with more about Aaron Swartz and his work on SOPA, PIPA, and so much more, and what we can do to change this system. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Talking Left live on SoFlo Radio, We Act Radio, Progressive Blend, and of course, TalkingLeft.com. We'll be right back.
This is not normal.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Okay, astronaut, you're up. You'll be meeting with Wish Kid Brandon.
Roger, Brandon.
His wish is to see a space shuttle launch.
All systems are go. We are clear for liftoff.
This year, more than 27,000 children will be diagnosed with a life-threatening medical condition.
And Cowboy,
Yes, ma'am.
you'll be meeting with Shayla at a dude ranch in San Antonio.
Let's saddle up.
Some will miss school, some will miss time with their family and friends.
Princess, are you here?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for rescuing me from that evil witch.
Juliana wishes for a princess-themed room makeover.
That sounds magical.
But with your help, the Make-A-Wish Foundation can lift their spirits and give them a special kind of hope.
Pirate,
Yar!
you're up for Isaac's wish.
Aye, aye, Captain.
The wishes of thousands of children are waiting to come true.
You can help make my wish happen. Visit wish.org today.
My name is Joe Thompson.
I'm 29 years old and have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
Hank Action News is proud to be sponsored by Healthcare for America Now. HCAN is a national coalition of more than 1,000 groups in 50 states, representing 30 million people. HCAN works to promote, defend, implement, and improve the Affordable Care Act at both the state and federal levels. They also try to protect Medicare and Medicaid, increase corporate accountability, and confront forces that seek to take away critical services. HCAN believes in creating jobs, not cutting programs people depend on. HCAN runs comprehensive issue campaigns that mobilize people at the grassroots and define the public debate. HCAN is fighting to protect, implement, and improve the new health care law through national and state-based legislative and regulatory campaigns built on grassroots action, public education, communications, policy analysis, and groundbreaking research. HCAN has become a respected voice and national leader on health care while continuing to focus on aggressive field activity. Support HCAN, Healthcare for America Now.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are just minutes away from speaking with our first guest this morning, Aaron Swartz. AaronSwartz.com.
Kyle Shank.
Kyle Shank. You can tell I got 4 hours of sleep. But we're going to be talking about Aaron Swartz. Kyle Shank of Donate Your Account. And we are going to be speaking with him about Aaron Swartz. Thank you.
No worries.
That's what sexy liberal does to you. Yes. Aaron Swartz, for anybody who doesn't know, was an amazing internet activist, pioneer, open source coder. He developed RSS, which most people are quite familiar with.
And maybe getting this show via.
Yes, for a few of you
if
who...
you're getting it by iTunes, it's using an RSS feed to get it there.
Yes, and for a few out-of-the-country listeners who have requested an RSS feed from us, welcome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And some of his biggest work was involved with SOPA and PIPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act. And what is PIPA? Piracy, I don't know. But basically...
Big corporations saying you can't use our stuff or we're going to shut down your website because you have one little picture on the bottom corner that's copyrighted or...
Exactly.
You know.
He was being prosecuted for essentially trying to share information with the rest of us. He was trying to download articles from JSTOR, a database of scholarly articles from his school, MIT. And he was prosecuted, charged with wire fraud and... over 50 years in prison.
Yeah, something like 13 counts.
It's really insane.
I
Essentially,
actually had a copy of the indictment. It was insane.
it really, really
Law
is.
is not meant for these types of situations, being stretched, pulled, prodded in order to make an example out of.
Well, it's also an overzealous prosecutor trying to make the charge so heavy that he would eventually just submit to the plea bargain.
Right. Which now that's their defense. Well, we have to plea bargain.
Yeah, exactly. But he was facing up to 50 years when he took his own life January 14th. Let me make sure that's correct. January 11th of this year. And that was more than somebody would face it for manslaughter, bank robbery, selling child pornography, knowingly spreading AIDS, selling slaves, genocidal eugenics, helping Al-Qaeda develop a nuclear weapon, committing violence at international airports, threatening the president, or even assaulting a Supreme Court justice.
Do you know what his crime really was, though?
He was trying to share information.
No.
According
from
to
their
the
side,
indictment.
No, I'm not talking about the indictment. I'm saying it from the powers that be.
Yes.
You're messing with the corporations.
Right.
You're messing with their profit. They can't make money if you get your way. People might get information. There might be growth. There might be ideas, exchange of ideas, wisdom and creation. That's what he was seeking. They were seeking profit, and he was getting in their way with these open source ideas. He was anti-intellectual property. And you know who else was?
Thomas Jefferson. Well, he was. He really firmly believed in the sharing of information, in all of us having free online access to something like scholarly articles to benefit ourselves, to benefit society as a whole. There's a reason why
ideas build on them.
Well, there's a reason why people say knowledge is power, and it is. And this is clearly people who were afraid that Aaron Swartz was going to share that power.
Sure. As they try to curtail it by, dumbing down schools, dumbing down textbooks, the news and all that. They're trying to go in the opposite direction in terms of knowledge and information. Because someone who doesn't know a whole heck of a lot, it's a lot easier to get them to vote for a Republican.
Yep. And good news, one of our favorite groups, Anonymous, in response to Aaron Swartz's suicide, hacked MIT and the Department of Justice. Go Anonymous. They put out on their website, which is always done as a web cache to prevent it from being taken down, they put out a memoriam of Aaron Swartz, born November 8th, 1986, committed suicide because of a unjust prosecution on January 11th, 2013. They have put a list of their wishes, which essentially boil down to free information, free internet access, equality in the internet for all of us.
If you go over to Aaron's website that he had created, you go to demandprogress.org.
Yes.
You'll see on the top of that, Demand Justice for Aaron. Click there.
And you can sign, you can sign some petitions and help out there. But we're going to be speaking with our next guest, Kyle Shank, who is another amazing, hardworking, just, there are no words to describe the good work he is going and doing out there, and he's the real deal. We're going to be speaking with him next about Donate Your Account and Fans FM. We're very excited to have him, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Talking Left right here on We Act Radio, SoFlo, Progressive Blend, or, of course, TalkingLeft.com. We'll be right back.
There you have it. News has never been softer. It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Look out, the fixers are coming. Top corporate chieftains and Wall Street gamblers want to tell Washington how to fix our national debt. So they've created a front group called Fix the Debt to push their agenda. Unfortunately, they're using fix in the same way your veterinarian uses it. Their core demand is for Washington to spay Social Security, castrate Medicare, and geld Medicaid. Of course, a group of pampered, narcissistic billionaires would not make a credible sales team for this dirty work. So Fix the Debt has recruited a bipartisan gaggle of former Congress critters to give their self-serving political gambit a softer public image, a sheen of high public purpose. With a budget of some $40 million, these elder statesmen are doing TV interviews, hosting breakfast sessions with members of Congress, making speeches about mutual sacrifice, and generally going all out to sell the financial elite's snake oil. But wait, being an elder does not automatically mean you're a statesman. Let's peek at the resumes of these so-called public-spirited fixers of the debt. Start with Jim McCreary, a former GOP lawmaker. While urging Congress to cut people's programs, he's also a top-paid lobbyist pushing Congress to give more tax subsidies to America's richest people and biggest multinational corporations. Former Democratic Senator Sam Nunn is a fixer too, but he's also paid $300,000 a year to be a board director for General Electric. Likewise, Democrat Erskine Bowles, a co-founder of the Fixers Front Group, is on the board of Morgan Stanley, drawing $345,000 a year. And former GOP Senator Judd Gregg takes about $1 million a year as advisor to and board member of such giants as Goldman Sachs and Honeywell. This is Jim Hightower saying, I wouldn't want this gang of fixers to pet my dog, much less touch my Social Security.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. As auto companies in Detroit show off their shiny new autos of the future, auto workers were there to showcase the struggles of workers looking for brighter futures. Jesse Russell reports.
The Detroit Auto Show not only showed off the future of the auto industry, it also showcased the struggles of working people. A series of protests were held outside of the event throughout the weekend, highlighting everything from pushing back against Michigan's right-to-work law to unionizing Nissan plants in Mississippi. One woman at the anti-right-to-work rally this weekend said people need to stand up to corporate control.
The first thing is we have to overcome the fear that people have, and the media message and the corporate message that we should all be glad we have a job, and it doesn't matter what kind of conditions those jobs are.
One auto worker named Martin said one of the most important things labor could be doing right now is educating the next generation of workers.
If we can continue to educate and try to mobilize, just not inside the plant, but also outside the plant, let people know what's going on, then I think we have to be heading in the right direction.
A Korean labor union unhappy with a Hyundai Motors subcontractor has posted a petition on the White House We the People website. It calls on the Obama administration to pressure Hyundai to rehire temporary workers who were laid off. In Chicago, labor activists who support single-payer universal health care held their 2013 conference this week. Chicago Teachers Union President Karen Lewis delivered the keynote speech. Lewis said the 2012 Chicago teachers strike demonstrates the power of community solidarity as firefighters welcomed striking teachers into their homes for meals, and parents also supported them. She says labor must attract and energize young people if it is to have a future. Lewis says as workers everywhere face another year of struggles, community coalitions and solidarity is crucial, and workers need to take the fight to the streets of communities nationwide.
We need to continue to build coalitions. Labor alone cannot win this fight. If we don't have community with us, we will be irrelevant quickly. If we don't continue to energize our ranks, to me, the beauty of our strike was that there were so many people without a single strand of gray hair. Regardless of where you are, you still have more to do, as do we all. It can't be a bunch of phone calls, brothers and sisters, face to face, one at a time, person to person. Stop preaching to the choir, take off those robes, and get in the streets.
This newscast made possible in part through underwriting support from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and from OPEIU. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are very excited about our next guest joining us, Kyle Shank of KyleShank.com, his blog. You can check him out on Twitter at Kyle Shank. And, of course, the creator of Donate Your Account and Fans FM. There's just nothing Kyle can't do. Good morning, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning, Danielle.
You know, you're not supposed to have nicer studio equipment than the host. It's great to see you over there on Skype.
Thank you. Yeah, I figured I had to get the equipment, get the right tools before doing something like Fans FM.
Well, absolutely. And, speaking of that, we finally made it to a terrestrial station, and we're very, very happy to be on WeAct. But we started our show long ago over the internet, and the product you've created, Fans FM, is simply amazing. If only it had been around about 3 years ago, we would have been kissing your feet. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about it?
Sure. So Fans FM is really kind of the simplest version of radio I could think of. So it's a really easy way for anyone to start a live radio broadcast and take callers. Take calls from over a real phone line or over Skype, and to manage that broadcast kind of like a conference call, and that's the way it's set up.
It's really cool. We checked it out and played with Fans FM quite a while ago, as recommended by our friend Victor Rocco.
Yes, and actually I could pull that up right now and start a broadcast, embed it, and it takes minutes. It's really cool. There's a video on the page, and it's really slick, and it's open source, correct?
So Fans FM is not yet open source. I'm planning on doing kind of a version 2 refresh.
Cool.
That adds in a lot more capabilities. Basically, the ability to do a real podcast and host a show on there is what I'm doing next. So you'll get an RSS feed coming out of there.
Wow.
And so after that point, maybe I'll think about open sourcing it. But Donate Your Account is open source, and that's the other thing that I've been doing recently.
Yes, Donate Your Account, for anybody who doesn't know, allows your Twitter and your Facebook to be utilized by causes you support. And Kyle, now, did you come up with that idea all on your own? Because it's awesome. I personally use Donate Your Account, and I have since, before this interview was scheduled. It's really awesome, especially the causes that are on there. How did that idea come about?
Yeah, it came about at the end of at the end of 2010. I actually helped out Sam Cedar, the Majority Report, and helped get his show launched and showed him kind of how to do an internet radio show. So, I noticed that he was, on Twitter, he was often asking people to share a link or retweet something. And I thought, he has a group of dedicated supporters, but they may or may not be online all the time. They may not be around to amplify his message. What would be an easy way to kind of automate that process? And that's the idea for Donate Your Account, where people donate their Twitter account to automatically retweet something on behalf of someone else at a later point in time.
Yeah, I personally have been a big supporter of the strike debt and Occupy Jubilee. That's something that I personally I think that's going to have the largest impact in our country, and especially to students with student debt and medical debt. And so I'm able to donate my account to strike debt, as anybody can, it's very simple. It takes probably under a minute to go over to donateyouraccount.com and set it up with the cause you choose. You really are doing amazing work out there. I don't understand how you have time to accomplish all of this. what got you involved in all these activities?
Well, I've been involved in the open source world and in politics for a long time. I started probably I've been coding since I was when I was 10 or 11 years old. I started with HTML. It was a long time ago. But since then, I've also gotten involved in politics. Back in 2004, I kind of got introduced to the progressive left in the blogging world, and worked on projects with Matt Stoller and John Arvosis, and worked on something called the Principles Project. And basically, since 2004, I've tried to help out progressive political people, like you guys, like Sam Seder, to just help further whatever they're trying to do, whatever technical hurdles they had. I would kind of help them out behind the scenes. So there's a variety of projects I've been into, and in a similar way in technology, I'm into open source. My first big open source project was something called RadRails, which was a Ruby on Rails development tool, and I did that in 2005 with a group of friends, and it became really popular, and it was really neat to build something for free that hundreds of thousands of people could take advantage of and make their lives better. And I really love doing that. So there's definitely a crossover between politics and technology, and for me that's open source, and helping out the right people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting that you say the crossover between politics and technology, because I think in our hectic lives today, in people having so much distraction or having to work 2 jobs or work and go to school, whatever the case may be for the individual, internet activism, internet politics, blogging, tweeting, all of that has grown exponentially in really just a few years. What is your take on the future of internet activism as it stands? Do you think that that's going to just pretty much surpass any actual physical protests and getting involved? Is that the way of the future?
Well, I think, it's interesting. Donate Your Account's a good example of something that's, internet-based. It's kind of, I think of Donate Your Account as kind of like a bumper sticker, you place on your internet car, which is your Twitter account or something like that.
That's an awesome analogy.
But, I still feel like, I guess it kind of comes down to, we, you probably still need to organize better. Like, we have all these tools, we have all the means of communication, but there's still, way too many roadblocks to actually getting people to come out and meet face to face. I think there's a lot of hesitation, and sometimes I feel like people think that you can just do everything online, but I feel like there's, that's good, but it needs to translate in some action at some point. So, I guess my goal, my hope is that we take the tools that we have and we do more with them.
I think that's an admirable goal. I like to think that internet, the supporting of those causes lets people know they're not alone, and it encourages people to actually get out in the streets, mobilize, canvass, make calls, whatever it may be for the particular issue that they're fighting for. But I think that connection tool is something that we haven't had before, to say, hey, we're not alone, and there's other people fighting and believing the same thing. And, people like you doing this amazing work, I think, is what makes that possible.
But it's a great tool as part of the process, but there has to be that constant reminder that it's only one part of that process, that there's other steps, that putting something on your computer and typing in, that's not it. So that it's like Kyle said, just part of it, but an important part. And you watch what happens around the world when the internet takes a hold of an issue, how much it can be magnified immediately, and therefore get people out. So that's what the great part of it is, I think.
What do you think? Are you seeing a big trend, like especially with, you have the story of Aaron Swartz, you have the gun issue going on right now. There's so many big issues in the news. Is there a particular cause that seems to be gaining the most attention at Donate Your Account?
Well, Donate Your Account's been used by a lot of different people. Obviously, it started off for progressive podcasters, Citizen Radio, The Majority Report, and it's grown into a lot of different things over the past 2.5 years. One of them being the Obama campaign used it for I think 20 of their state campaign Twitter accounts. Occupy Wall Street uses it too, but since it's open source, they actually use it on their own server. So there's been an interesting there's a diverse group of people that use it, and I guess I haven't noticed anything on Donate Your Account in particular. I think people are, what I notice with Donate Your Account is people do, I call it supporter-based marketing. And what I do see is people are trying to get something off the ground, and I think they need support to do it. And, if they can get their friends involved and start a Donate Your Account campaign, that's a start, And so I think I see some new ideas popping up, or just new people forming new groups, people forming new issue-focused, kind of actions. And so I wouldn't say there's one trend that I'm noticing. I think the things after the past year, probably, gun control is something that's resonating, and the Aaron Swartz thing brings the hacking debate into the spotlight in our laws, and those two things are probably the biggest right now, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next year. The thing that I'm worried about is the short attention span, the fact that something kind of takes hold for 2 weeks and goes away in our media. And the goal with the internet is to keep that, whatever energy was there, keep that going.
Yeah,
beyond 2 weeks.
That's one thing when a few people will say, oh, everyone keeps covering guns. Right when Sandy Hook happened, the first thing everyone was lamenting, well, how soon is this going to go away? Is the media going to turn somewhere else, and we'll never do anything about it? So I'm glad that it's still in the media. We're still talking about it. There's still action on it. But I had a question for you. Because this is open source, Kyle, have any conservatives taken advantage of this? Have you found that at all?
Yeah. The Republican Party of Pennsylvania used it. George Allen's campaign used it. There's actually quite a few groups.
Cool.
Breitbart's a website set up an account, but they don't really use it that much. But for me, I don't think you can release a tool and then tell people
exactly
what to do with it or who can use it. I think that's weird, much weirder than than just letting it happen.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think that's
the difference, though, because
the heart of progressivism, the heart of fighting all these issues is real progressives fight for everybody, not just those on the left. We will continue to fight for the rights of those who oppose us, and it seems like the work you're doing is in the same spirit.
Yeah, and I think that my personal opinion, having been part of the progressive tech movement or whatever it's called since 2004, is that we actually have there are more people like me than you think. There's a lot of good technical energy that could be really used, and sometimes I feel like maybe we're not utilizing it enough. And I feel like there is a slight advantage on the conservative groups when it comes to technology, and we should be, I think we should be, drumming that drum as much as we can.
Absolutely. We are speaking with Kyle Shank of KyleShank.com, DonateYourAccount.com, and Fans FM. Kyle, just in the minute or so we have left, we did mention Aaron Swartz, and I just wanted to get your opinion on the really severe prosecution going after him for sharing information for, as we both just said, trying to benefit the public as a whole with knowledge. What are your thoughts on that whole story and the sad ending that it took?
Well, I think, the one thing you can really look at is, how do we treat technology in our law? And I think right now, the way we treat technology in our law, especially when it comes to the Computer Fraud Act, and a bunch of other areas, SOPA last year, it's clear that lawmakers don't understand technology. And as a result, things like what happened with Aaron are possible because the way the laws are written, they're so vague and allow for prosecutors to kind of round up a bunch of charges and to not really let, they're so vague that the charges can get piled up pretty quickly, especially if you're dealing with items or what's deemed property over $5,000. A lot can happen to you, a large sentence you could face, but you would likely not serve that kind of sentence. And the problem with technology is, the main motive and the motive in Aaron's case, the driving thing for me is the fact that he wasn't doing this for profit. And I think that's the key differentiator. He wasn't seeking to make money off of this operation. I think it was an act of civil disobedience, and there would probably be some punishment for doing it. I think that's what civil disobedience is. But the terms they're talking about and the tactics of the prosecution were, overreaching. And, when someone becomes, a Bostonian of the year, as the prosecutor was, it's clear that these prosecutors are incentivized for high-profile cases.
Absolutely. Kyle, thank you so much for, all of your amazing work. I really think that you have a tremendous impact on so many great causes, and Fans FM, I think, is going to really revolutionize, independent media, which is something that is growing so quickly today. Thank you also for getting up so early with us on a Sunday. We sincerely appreciate anybody who's willing to do that. That deserves a gold medal right there.
Well, thank you guys. Great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Great to talk to you, too. Kyle Shank, everybody. Big round of applause. KyleShank.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Shank. Of course, go over to DonateYourAccount.com and support causes of your choice.
How often do we hear from people who listen to this show, listen to all the shows we listen to, Tom and Bill Press, and of course Stephanie Miller, who have an opinion and are really thoughtful and love audio and love radio and want to get into it? Fans FM is the way to do it. You can do it so quickly, so easily. How many times have we gotten a tweet saying, "Oh, I want to do that too"? Go for it.
Do you remember?
Go for it. We'd love to listen to you.
Shane and I have spent many hours helping friends set up home studios so that they could use the products that were out there. And Kyle Shank has essentially made that possible for anybody. Yeah. And big thanks to him for joining us. Of course, all of his links will be up with the blog post for today's show at talkingleft.com. But seriously, go to Donate Your Account and support some of your favorite causes. So we're going to be right back with more here on Talking Left. We are live on We Act Radio, SoFloRadio.com, Progressive Blends Radio, and of course, TalkingLeft.com. Thanks so much for checking us out. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
What is this? What's going on?
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, this is Tim Cormall from The Tim Cormall Show. Join me and my guests most weeks for a progressive roundtable discussion about politics, news, and other fun topics. We laugh a lot about the hilarious antics of the right-wing nutjobs, as well as have serious discussions about issues affecting all of our lives. You can check out The Tim Cormall Show at timcormall.com, and you can subscribe to the show for free in iTunes by searching for The Tim Cormall Show. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Tim Cormall. That's CORRIMAL. So come on over and join in the fun at timcormall.com.
You're listening to and watching
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean.
With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Spread the responsibility. We're all in this together, right? You and me and Joe and Mary and whoever, we're all in this together. So spread the responsibility around. Students, get active and strike on education issues. Journalists, challenge corporate censorship of the truth and the real issues that we're facing today. Police officials, refuse to impose orders that you know to be immoral or wrong.
Or illegal.
Or illegal, right? Torturing, that's bad.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to The Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Your view is not being represented in this country because all of our views have been corrupted by money and politics. Remember, 94% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins.
That's the fact that we need to drive home constantly. It's all about the money. Dylan Radigan, you rock.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime.
7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. So here's a 26-second message of encouragement.
Hi, I'm Stacy. Look, I've been there. It's tough. And I just want to say, if you find yourself feeling negative, use it as motivation. Let it be like the fuel in the fire to keep you going. 'Cause the best is yet to come. Seriously, you're capable of great things you probably haven't even dreamed of yet. So don't quit now. See you at graduation.
Do you have 26 seconds to convince a student to stay at their desk? Now you can share your message of support at boostup.org. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo. On the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com.
You're listening to Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Big thanks to our last guest, Kyle Shank of Donate Your Account, donateyouraccount.com. And one of the big issues that I saw over there when I went to see if there were any new issues I could support was, of course, the gun debate. Obama announced 23 executive actions this week to help in saving our children, saving our neighbors, our fellow Americans from dying needlessly.
Weapons designed for the theater of war have no place in a movie theater.
And apparently, the right wing, both in media, politics, and just your average gun nut, are going insane. Conservative blogs and Fox News have been filled with ridiculous protests over Obama's so-called abuse of power and the manifestation of tyranny.
Yes, there's lots of graphics on some of the shows. King Obama. That he's,
yes.
And you got what Rand Paul out there saying, we didn't want a king.
Yes, Rand Paul went on to the Christian Broadcast Network to accuse Obama of acting like a king or monarch. No, that would be essentially what the Republican Party is doing, but we'll get into that later in the show with Ian Millhiser. We are going to go over in just a few minutes some of Obama's executive actions and some of the right's reaction, especially that from the NRA and their so-called 4 million members. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I know this is a short segment.
Their 4 million members are a lot like the voters they complain about in Chicago.
Yeah. So I know we ran that last segment a little long, but we were enjoying speaking with Kyle Shank, and he does too much good work to fit into a normal-sized segment, and we still could have kept talking. We still, great stuff. So we're going to go ahead and go running back to a break so we can be back on time to go over these executive actions and the right's reaction to them. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Talking Left. Check out the podcast. You can download it over on iTunes for free, or you can
over and over and over.
Yeah, or you can watch the Ustream video every week up on YouTube. So lots of ways to listen, but we'll be back here live in just a few minutes. This is Talking Left.
It's Tuesday, January 15, 2013.
While we were out, Shell Oil crashed in Alaska. Catastrophic heat wave and wildfires in Australia. Deep smog in China. Plus, It's official. 2012 was the hottest year on record in the U.S.
Everything you've missed over our winter break and much more. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
2012 was the hottest year on record, we think. The record book burst into flames.
This is your Green News Report. Okay, yep, we're back. Happy New Year, Desi Doyen.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Now, I know you have a lot to catch up with since we've been off for the past couple of weeks, so I'll shut up, other than to note that out here in Los Angeles and out in Phoenix, the entire West Coast, it is absolutely freezing right now. Cold temperatures that we haven't seen in 50 years. Clearly, global warming is over. Congratulations.
Except for that part where climate scientists say we can expect to see more extreme and intense weather events.
Man,
swinging
you guys got
back
it coming and going, don't you? All right, what do you have for us? What did we miss over the last 2 or 3 weeks since we've been off?
Well, first, it's official. 2012 was the hottest year on record for the continental United States. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It was so hot in the U.S.
How hot was it?
That it was a full degree Celsius hotter than the previous record in 1998.
Well, only a degree. That's not much, is it?
Well, yeah, but, when Celsius is not Fahrenheit, that actually works out to be about 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is quite a bit. Not to mention that these things are usually measured in tenths of a degree, which actually has quite a bit of impact. 2012 also ranked second for the highest number of billion-dollar weather disasters in the U.S., including Superstorm Sandy. We saw 11 disasters costing more than $1 billion each in losses. And of all the weather disasters around the world in 2012, the U.S. got 90% of the economic losses. And while we were gone, the federal government released an unusually blunt report on the latest national climate assessment. It's just the draft version right now, but it baldly states that the evidence is now unequivocal that these catastrophic weather events and devastating heat waves are now more frequent and intense due to climate change caused by fossil fuel pollution. It also bluntly states that if no action is taken, average temperatures in the continental U.S. could go up 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit in coming decades. However, a new study out while we were gone says taking action to cut emissions now could prevent up to 2/3 of climate change impacts. Catastrophic bushfires raged down under during our break.
We saw tornadoes of fire, and the next thing we knew, everything was on fire everywhere.
And they're still raging. The wildfires are driven by a record heat wave in Australia that is so hot.
How hot was it?
That Australia's National Weather Service had to add new colors to their weather maps to reflect a new record high temperature of 129 degrees Fahrenheit.
You mean new colors on the actual map when they show how hot it is here?
Yes.
What colors did they choose for 129 degrees?
Purple.
Woo, that's hot.
During our break, air pollution in China was so bad.
How bad was it?
It was off the charts. On a scale of 0 to 500, air pollution on Sunday in Beijing measured 755.
Did they add any new colors?
No, they can't see it.
Oh, I see. They can't see anything because of the smog.
In Alaska, Shell's Arctic drilling rig ran aground on New Year's Eve while we were gone. It's now been towed to safe harbor after being rescued by the Coast Guard. No oil spill this time, but why did Shell decide to move its rig in a near hurricane on New Year's Eve? Well, a Shell spokesman told the local newspaper it was partly to avoid millions in Alaska state taxes.
This is the same rig that was heading up to drill in the Arctic for the first time that the Coast Guard had warned against. Then the rig on the way up there had run aground, had all sorts of problems, had to get out during a storm. It's been a disaster so far for Shell.
Yep.
Well, don't sound so happy about it.
In settlement talks over the BP oil spill in the Gulf, rig owner Transocean's agreed to pay $1.5 billion to the federal government. While we were gone, retail gas prices hit a record high for all of 2012, and so did big oil profits. Lisa Jackson stepped down as administrator of the EPA. Former Washington Governor Christine Gregoire is being considered as her possible replacement. The New York Times closed its highly regarded and apparently not indispensable environment desk. They say coverage of the environment now spans several departments. Overfishing has caused the population of bluefin tuna in the Pacific Ocean to drop 96%. Plus, a new study of ants has found BPA in their little ant bodies in samples from all over the world. Finally, Concord, Massachusetts became the first city in the U.S. to ban the sale of plastic water bottles.
Well, that's good.
Go Concord.
But other than that, we better not stay away so long next time.
There's
apparently.
too much to cover.
Yeah, and too much goes wrong. For more on what happened while we were out, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Remember, you can always download us anytime via iTunes, listen to us on your mobile device via Stitcher Radio or TuneIn Radio, like us on the Facebook, and follow us 24/7 on the Twitters at Green News Report. From bradblog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Thank you wherever you're listening, whether that's Progressive Blend Radio, SoFlo Radio, or, of course, live on We Act Radio, 1480 a.m. 1480 a.m.
DC is bustling.
Yes.
We're used to nobody being around. Like,
is there
tumbleweeds down
lots of people
Pennsylvania Avenue.
bustling about outside?
I know. I ran outside to have a, I've told you, I smoke during that break there, and I almost didn't make it back up to the studio because I'm going over there. It's cool. It's great.
We're used to...
Everyone like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm going to get a bagel.
Yes.
Get out of my way. I'm tired. I need some coffee.
Yes, as yesterday was Gun Appreciation Day. In response to Obama's 23 executive actions, thankfully, the people who are here today and tomorrow are here for less nefarious reasons.
Actually, I ran into one of our favorite conservatives who works here as well. And he's like, can we tape something? Because he has a tough time with family obligations on Sunday mornings.
Yes.
Because he really wants to be on. We want conservatives here.
Yes.
They're fun. Conservatives
well,
can be
and
fun, especially
this is one of our...
Jeff Holtzman
yes.
of Talk Radio News Service, the DC bureau chief. And he's like, I'm like, well, next week, and we should probably let our listeners know, because this is a crazy week.
Yes, we are going to actually
with
take
the day job, especially, and with all the festivities over the weekend, which are amazing. I have a feeling I won't have this much energy a week from now.
I have a feeling we're both running on caffeine and steam right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Steam, that's what it is.
Well, it sure isn't sleep.
No. It's fun, though. It's worth it. You don't get this very often,
No.
This is once-in-a-lifetime stuff.
It's a really exciting time, and we are very glad to be, bringing you here live to D.C. Big thanks to everybody who is out there working so hard, covering the news, covering the events, volunteering, setting up, all of the balls, the parties, the inauguration events, all of the Capitol Police who are working to help keep this city safe right now.
Big signs that are everywhere.
It's really amazing to see how much gets done.
those big signs when we first moved here.
Yes.
Where am I? There are no signs in the city, by the way.
Yes.
You can,
drive all over the place.
Major expressway. You have to get on the expressway. You go by it. Where was it?
Yes.
Where was it?
Signs are optional here.
Yeah.
As are any lighting whatsoever.
I mean, some of the entrances to the expressways around here are like the spots that cops park in to put their radar guns at you. They're that hard to find.
Yeah, they look like a side street.
They're camouflaged. You think you're going to go to Warehouse District, and no, you're getting on the BW.
Yes.
The Baltimore-Washington Expressway.
Yes.
Which is death-defying in of itself when you get there. Yeah, caffeine.
Yes. Yes, I can see that.
Yes.
That's pot of coffee number 2.
It is. We have serious news.
Death-defying. Perhaps not death-defying at all. Obama's executive orders. 23 executive actions, better stated. Covering everything from mental health to gun safety to just trying to block some of the most deadly firearms from public possession.
Wait. Let's not blur these two, because this is really important. His executive orders had nothing to do with keeping the most deadly weapons out of certain people's hands.
Oh, we're going to get into that.
I know, but you were talking about his executive orders. That was not an executive order because that's what the right is trying to confabulate.
Well, and I want to specify that they're executive actions. Some, it's
when you put it on a piece of paper and you sign it, it's an order, but that's okay because an executive order, an executive action, must be within a bounds of either the Constitution or a law duly passed and signed by the president, by the Congress already.
Yes.
And if the president acts outside that authority, two things can happen. You can take him to court, which lots of people do. A lot of the Supreme Court cases I hear are about this very thing. The FCC went too far. FTC went too far. So there's ways to deal with this. Or, like Rand Paul, pass a law and repeal the law you don't like the action that's under. You know?
Yes.
You're giving that look like, Shane, you're way too wound up.
No, I was going to get to that.
I'm not fitting into your scheme this morning.
You killed my segue.
You drove that's a segue right there.
You drove that segue right off a cliff.
I drove it right into the BW.
Yes. Obama's executive actions included making background checks universal, improving state reporting of criminals and the mentally ill, banning assault weapons, which he is just asking Congress to reinstate the ban.
Asking. They have to pass a law. He can't sign a piece of paper and make it true.
He is asking
no matter what
Congress.
Alex Jones says.
Yes, he is asking Congress to do many of these things, including capping magazine clips capacities at 10 bullets instead of the 30 to 100 rounds that...
I don't think that's accurate. I think he's moving it from 10 to 7, and then on certain guns from 7 down to 4.
Well, according to Think Progress.
Think Progress is always right, so I'm wrong.
Yeah. Purging armor-piercing bullets, because seriously, what the heck do you need an armor-piercing bullet for unless you're trying to kill a cop? If you're a soldier, the military can surely provide you access to that. If you're a civilian, explain to me what the hell you need it for. Funding police officers, $4 billion to help fund police enforcement around the country, which is a very small drop in the bucket considering how many states have cut their budgets so drastically.
And it's really annoying to hear Wayne LaPierre whine about these executive orders when the president is doing exactly what he proposed.
Exactly. Strengthening gun trafficking to making mandatory all the agencies that trace back firearms, allowing law enforcement to do background checks on guns seized during investigations, seeing if they're connected to a crime, essentially. Supporting research on gun violence, which is a big deal because the NRA has blocked a lot of the research for several years to indicate, whether video games, media, violence against certain people, just how it all connects and what could be done about it. $10 million will be put into the pot of funding for such research. Encouraging mental health providers to get involved, which the one that this one is particularly hypocritical because all we heard after Sandy Hook and after so many gun incidents is it's not a problem of gun rights, it's not a problem of gun control, it's an issue of mental health. Well, now, when he's trying to do something to help with the mental health side of the issue, now Republicans are against that, saying it's violating people's rights. Promoting safe gun ownership, encouraging owners to lock up their firearms, use trigger locks, etc. Funding school counseling and helping to highlight anti-bullying campaigns, and recognizing the mental health needs of low-income Americans. So this is a pretty all-inclusive set of executive actions that the president is trying to undertake.
Within the executive authority.
Yes. And in response to those actions, which in many people on the left's opinion don't go far enough, but they're a damn good start, if you ask me. In response to trying to keep our kids safe and our streets safe, what does Obama get for it? Calls for impeachment. Being called, compared to dictators like Adolf Hitler, Stalin, Saddam Hussein, etc., from the right-wing blogosphere. And Republicans like Steve Stockman of Texas, who wants to introduce articles of impeachment. Trey Riddell said impeachment, Republican of Florida, said impeachment should be on the table. Everybody's favorite crazy, Louis Gohmert, Republican of Texas, said that the president's action is illegal and ground for impeachment. Apparently, Gohmert, you need to go read the Constitution again. Former Attorney General Edwin Meese, which We're not even going to get into how crazy he was. He was a laughingstock at the time.
Remember me?
Yes.
I'm still crazy.
Still crazy.
After
Check.
all these years.
Yes. Larry Pratt, the head of Gun Owners of America, is also calling on Republican lawmakers to, quote, stop being spectators while the country is being torn apart and impeach Obama. Really? You don't see how calls for impeaching the president would possibly tear the country apart? Really?
Well, it's what you do to Democratic presidents who get a second term.
Yeah, because you can't spend nice, expensive caucus room dinners trying to say that you're going to make him a one-term president.
Yeah, I get Frontline did that story.
I know.
And yay on them. I'm so glad. You know, progressive media's been talking about it for some time. And thank you to them, but I'm glad that Frontline put it on the television machine so more people will see it.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Well,
I wonder where the reservations are for this Monday.
Regarding all of these ridiculous calls from all these Republicans, there's a really, really great analysis by Adam Winkler. And he goes on to say that there are two issues here that prove how ridiculous it is. First of all, clearly stating that executive orders are constitutional. The first issue is procedure in reference to Obama using the procedure of executive action. He writes, executive orders are commands the president gives to administrative agencies under his charge to take some type of action. They can be used, according to the Constitution, to implement existing federal statutes the president is responsible for enforcing, or to carry out the president's constitutionally granted powers, such as his role as commander-in-chief. Executive orders have been used by presidents going back to George Washington.
And really, when it comes right down to it, executive orders really aren't for the branches themselves.
No, they're for the agencies.
No, even for the agencies. He could just give the head of the ATF a call. Of course, there isn't one. Someone over the ATF and say, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, or Center for Disease Control. I need you to start tracking these numbers. They're really more so that for that transparency, so we know what actions our president is taking under the authority granted to him by the Constitution or the Congress. Is really saying, this is what I'm doing. And it's completely within the Constitution.
You mean unlike hidden signing statements used by President George W. Bush?
Yeah.
Just going out on a limb there?
Go do this wiretap over there. Don't worry about it. And it was funny to watch Sean Hannity with former Attorney General Michael Mukasey. Mukasey, very conservative guy. Sean Hannity, very conservative guy. He figures he's going to get him on there, and he runs down this whole list of all these unconstitutional things, and Mukasey looks like, no, that's not unconstitutional.
Yeah.
His head exploded.
The Supreme Court has clearly and consistently held that executive actions and executive orders are constitutionally permissible. The second issue here is substance, what actually the president is calling for. Critics are accusing the president of violating the Second Amendment by his executive actions and proposed legislative fixes, like the mandatory background checks he's requesting. None of these are likely to be held to violate the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court has continuously ruled that although guns are permitted under the Second Amendment, they are also clearly allowed to be regulated.
They've gone further than saying permitted.
Yes.
That they've gone really far recently, saying it is an individual's right to bear arms, but there has to be there may be regulations. You can't just ban them outright. You have to, say under these circumstances, tailoring and all those words they use.
Yes. Perhaps the biggest irony, and I'm going to quote directly from Adam Winkler over at the Daily Beast. He writes, perhaps the greatest irony here is that its opponents, meaning those attacking Obama for his executive orders, its opponents of Obama's gun proposals who seem to disregard our Constitution. The Constitution unambiguously declares that laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, the Supremacy Clause.
Yep.
So these
10th Amendment.
This right-wing outrage machine has remained silent on the fact that their calls for states to enact laws that essentially undo the president's actions are actually what's unconstitutional there by violating the Supremacy Clause. Yes, the right-wing outrage machine has remained silent on those clearly unconstitutional state efforts. So great stuff over by Adam Winkler at the Daily Beast. And I know we're about out of time, but just because it's funny, everybody needs to go over to Mother Jones and check out, does the NRA really have 4 million members?
No, we got to talk about that when we come back.
Okay, we'll get into it.
We got to talk about that. Come on.
Okay. We'll get into it when we come
and for
back.
all Texans, or for all New Yorkers, one of the lieutenant governor over there said, "Come on down, move to Texas, bring your guns.
Yeah. Come on, y'all."
And you'll keep more income, so you can buy lots of ammo.
Ooh, lots of ammo. Good. That's what we need. More rednecks with guns.
Let Texas go. Free Texas.
We're going to be back in just a few minutes here on Talking Left. We have Ian Millhiser of Think Progress coming up here in just a few minutes. We're
Unless he's been
very,
listening,
very
in which case
excited.
I have nothing to do with that show, man.
And we're not going to be talking to him about guns. How about that? Stick around. You're listening to Talking Left live on We Act Radio. We'll be right back.
This is going to be fun. It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child. And that can last a lifetime. Start something today at BigBrothersBigSisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
Breast health awareness is critical for all women, particularly African Americans, because we have an increased risk of dying from breast cancer compared to women of other backgrounds. At U of M, I'm doing research here and with women in Ghana to look for an inherited link that makes African and African American women susceptible to a more aggressive type of cancer. Finding this link, I believe, will make new treatments possible. But right now, making sure that you are properly screened is our best protection.
With experts like Dr. Lisa Newman, the University of Michigan Health System is a leader in cancer care. When you call our free Cancer Answer line at 800-865-1125, an oncology nurse will answer any questions you might have about the prevention, screening, and treatment of breast cancer and other forms of cancer. All calls are confidential. Call 800-865-1125 or visit uofmhealth.org/Cancer Answer line.
We're working to help everyone enjoy longer, healthier lives.
That's the Michigan difference.
Hey there, Matthew Filipovich here, host of the creatively titled Matthew Filipovich Show, which, by the way, you can hear every single Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on 1480 a.m. We Act Radio. Now, I'm going to be honest with you people. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I like talking to smart people who are smarter than me, some of the smartest, funniest, most badass progressives out there. People like Glenn Greenwald, Naomi Klein, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, Jamie Kilstein, Allison Kilkenny, Alan Grayson, Jeremy Scahill, Jim Hightower, and more. That's right, I said more. Don't believe me? Well, tune into the Matthew Filipovich Show every single Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. for some of the best in liberal talk, news, comedy, and interviews right here on 1480 a.m. We Act Radio.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at We Act Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast, For more information, visit the ARC's website, www.thearcdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The ARC, part of Southeast D.C.
Jenny got a gun. Jenny got a gun. Dog days just begun. Everybody is on the
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. Just a few more minutes before we'll be speaking with Ian Millhiser of Think Progress about some amazing reporting he's been doing on the
theft of our democracy.
Yeah, the newest theft of our democracy. But one of the biggest claims we heard this week was from the NRA. They said that after the Sandy Hook shooting, their membership had risen by over 100,000 people.
Which could be true.
Could very well be true. There's no way to verify that since the NRA does not openly share its members. However,
no statistics on that, nor the effect of guns and violence.
Right. However, Josh Harkinson over at Mother Jones has a great post. Does the NRA really have 4 million members? Last week, according to the NRA, they said they had about 4.2 million members and counting. However, there's been some very large discrepancies from the organization throughout the past 20 years. Within months from each other, in 2008, at one point the NRA said they had 3 million members. At one point they said they had 4.3 million members. Big difference, more than 40% difference.
It's kind of like the number of Tea Partiers in the mall.
Yes. And there have been some interesting, this gentleman has used some interesting means to try and test that theory. In March of 2001, the Denver Post pegged the NRA's membership at 2 million. Only a few months later, the NRA spokesman put the number at 4.5 million. But writing, where is it here? The NRA seems to just be using a campaign of smoke and mirrors. He spoke with David Gross, or David Gross, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, of an NRA board member who confided in him that more than 1 million of the group's members are in fact dead.
There you go.
The NRA grants lifetime membership to many individuals and never bothers to check if those individuals pass away. They also grant honorary memberships to those who never request it.
I was just about to ask whether or not the Mormons also are going to christen them at the same time.
Yes. For instance, David Gross himself.
Posthumously, you're an NRA member.
David Gross himself, specifically before he was a board member for the organization, received an NRA form letter stating that in recognition of his previous commitment to the Second Amendment, the group had granted him an honorary membership. And the mailing even included the NRA membership card embossed with his name. Yes, it gets worse. They've also boosted their membership by free memberships included with a gun purchase that automatically enrolls you in the organization.
It's kind of like Glenn Beck's book sales.
And they've even gone as far as peddling a specialized insurance plan aimed at gun owners to help increase their membership. And an update to this story shows that the NRA's true size is likely closer to 3 million. They used a means of magazine subscription, which is given to each NRA member free. They have a choice of 4 different magazines. Well, those magazines have a combined paid and free circulation of only 3.1 million magazines, with people who likely purchase them that aren't members of the NRA.
Right.
So it could very well be less, but it's certainly the
is,
upper bound of the NRA's true size.
The thing is that I don't know this for a fact, but I'm quite sure that when you do an NRA membership, yes, there's lifetime ones, but they're also, I think they're generally a yearly membership.
Right.
So there could be plenty of people out there right now saying, I was an NRA member. How they're acting right now in the wake of Sandy Hook is really despicable to me, and I'm not going to renew. But
Right.
they're still counted as a member, even though they've essentially disavowed their membership. There's some Congress people that did this.
Yes.
So those would still be counted.
Right. And you know, if anybody in there was a quote unquote lifetime member, they'll just continue to be counted. So essentially, according to the NRA, you can never not be a member. Once you're a member, you're a member. You're always included in their numbers.
Cosa Nostra. Once you're a member, man.
Tough shit. You're not getting out. Tough stuff. You're not getting out. Anyway, we're going to be speaking with Ian Millhiser in just a few minutes there of Think Progress about the RNC's latest election rigging scheme, and we're going to be speaking with him in just a few minutes. We'll be right back here on Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano. Stick around.
Maybe.
Confound it. You're right. It's brilliant.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
In the scramble to fix the federal deficit, one of Washington's worst ideas is widely considered by political elites, including some Democrats, to be a good idea, even a painless fix. The idea is to raise the age of eligibility for both Social Security and Medicare, shoving it from 65 to 67 or beyond. After all, goes Washington's conventional wisdom, people live so much longer now, so it won't hurt to postpone eligibility and save a couple of years of taxpayer outlays to people. But, as economist and columnist Paul Krugman has pointed out, this bit of conventional wisdom is merely conventional, in the sense of trite. While life expectancy has gone up on average, it has not increased much for working stiffs, especially tens of millions of lower wage and poor workers. Unlike being a member of Congress, the work that these people do tends to require heavy lifting, which can make you old fast. Requiring them to do it even deeper into old age and to wait longer for medical assistance is, as Krugman bluntly calls it, cruel. Bear in mind, too, that working-class families are precisely the people who count on Social Security and Medicare. They don't have the socialized medical benefits and golden pensions that those pampered conventional wisdom spouters in Congress get. Oh, one more thing. The purported savings from this fix are so minimal as to be illusory. In fact, shoving ill or crippled elderly workers out of the cost-effective Medicare system will jack up America's health care costs. This is Jim Hightower saying, so raising the retirement age is gratuitous as well as cruel, but mostly it's severely ignorant. What's at work here is a policy-making elite that includes no working-class people, so it can cluelessly believe that making the lives of these Americans worse is painless.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you. The Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham. 8,000 school bus drivers, members of Amalgamated Transit Local 1181, are on strike in New York City. Amalgamated Transit Union International President Larry Hanley.
We are the common victims of a mayor who is a billionaire and completely out of touch and out of control. He has picked this fight, staged it, brought it about on his calendar, not on any other schedule. He has an open fight with every worker who is employed by him right now in the city. He is refusing to negotiate contracts with cops and firemen and sanitation workers and teachers. The people are the victims, and they should stand with us and tell this mayor to just cut it out and start being a mayor and stop being a billionaire.
The union says after 50 years of job protections and wage stability for school bus drivers, Mayor Bloomberg arbitrarily threw that out by putting school bus contracts up for bids among private companies. That means the workers could suddenly lose their jobs or have their wages and benefits lowered. The ATU tried to avert a strike over the issue, but Hanley says Bloomberg won't even talk to the union. Hanley says ATU school bus drivers are committed to getting school children safely to and from school. He says safety is enhanced by job and wage stability among drivers because qualified, experienced drivers stay on the job longer. Hanley says the people of New York and the union bus drivers are victims of a right-wing attack on working people.
This is Wisconsin and Michigan having come to New York City. It is a mayor who was on the same right-wing agenda, although sometimes he hides it, that Scott Walker has been on in Wisconsin. This is the right-wing Tea Party attack on working people, and people in this country really need to take stock of what's happening and stand up with organized labor in New York as they have stood with organized labor around the country.
French auto workers near Paris have occupied a plant to protest layoffs. Jesse Russell reports.
Peugeot Citroën workers near Paris have occupied a plant in protest of planned layoffs. The company is in the process of laying off 8,000 workers and closing that plant. According to a union representing the workers, nearly 300 have stopped production at the plant, bringing work practically to a standstill. There are roughly 3,000 employees at the plant, but the majority of the striking workers are on the production line. Europe hasn't shared in North America's rebound of the auto industry. The European Union saw new car registrations drop by 16% at the end of 2012. The union has been seeking early retirement offers for the workers who are over the age of 55. But so far, the company has been unwilling to offer such incentives. Peugeot's competitor, Renault, is also planning layoffs, but they're doing so by offering early retirement plans and not bringing on new hires.
This newscast made possible in part through underwriting support from the National Association of Letter Carriers. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Okay, astronaut, you're up. You'll be meeting with Wish Kid Brandon.
Roger, Brandon.
His wish is to see a space shuttle launch.
All systems are go. We are clear for liftoff.
This year, more than 27,000 children will be diagnosed with a life-threatening medical condition.
And Cowboy?
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be meeting with Shayla at a dude ranch in San Antonio.
Let's saddle up.
Some will miss school. Some will miss time with their family and friends.
Princess, are you here?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for rescuing me from that evil witch.
Juliana wishes for a princess-themed room makeover.
That sounds magical.
But with your help, the Make-A-Wish Foundation can lift their spirits and give them a special kind of hope.
Pirate!
Yar!
You're up for Isaac's wish.
Aye, aye, Captain.
The wishes of thousands of children are waiting to come true.
You can help make my wish happen. Visit wish.org today.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We are very, very excited about the amazing man we have on the phone, Ian Millhiser of Think Progress, Center for American Progress. You can read his stuff over at thinkprogress.com. And, of course, follow him on Twitter at @IMillhiser. Good morning, Ian. Thank you for getting up so early with us.
It's good to be here. I wish I was coming to you with better news today.
Oh, is there breaking news in the Republican election rigging scandal?
I don't know if there's breaking news, but the news is this plan still exists, and we need to kill it.
Absolutely. I don't know if many people realize what is underfoot. We recently saw Reince Priebus come out and essentially brag that they won the House because of gerrymandering, and that he supported a plan to change the way electoral votes are counted. And sure enough, now in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Virginia, Ohio, Wisconsin, all of these states are either considering or have already proposed legislation to change the electoral college votes. Can you explain to listeners how big of a story this really is?
I mean, this could potentially be the story of the future of American politics, because it's a plan to rig every presidential election going forward. The way that the plan works is, first you have to understand how badly the GOP gerrymandered the maps when they got the chance in 2010. Democratic House candidates won more than 1.4 billion votes than Republicans did, but Republicans have a pretty substantial majority in the House, in large part because of that gerrymandering. And now what the Republicans want to do is they want to take these gerrymandered maps and they want to use them to rig the presidential election, too. Normally, states allocate their electoral votes according to whoever wins the state as a whole. So President Obama wins Pennsylvania. He gets all of Pennsylvania's 20 electors. What the GOP wants to do is take a few blue states and change it so that they allocate the votes according to the same rigged congressional districts they've already drawn. So whoever wins each one congressional district gets one electoral vote. If this had been in place, Obama won Pennsylvania by 5 points, but Romney would have won 13 of the state's 20 electoral votes. And, you see the same thing in several other states. He won Michigan by nearly 10 points, but Romney would have won a majority of electoral votes in Michigan if this plan had been in place. So the idea behind it is to make sure that no matter who the American people vote for, the Republican candidate winds up coming out on top in the Electoral College and winning the White House. If this plan had been in effect in 2010, Romney would be president right now.
And here's what scares me, and I think should probably scare listeners and anybody who's following all of your amazing coverage of this story. The Republicans, as you said, have gerrymandered the House to the point where unless those districts are changed or unless the voters turn out in such overwhelming numbers, we're not likely to get those seats back. We know that they have stacked the Supreme Court full of conservatives, and they would love to do so again if they had a president in office. With getting the presidency too, and who knows what else they can do to get to steal back the Senate, they've essentially created a banana republic. They are becoming the monarch that they so complain Obama is. They're trying to put themselves in the position of a king. With that accomplished, if they're able to do that, I mean, haven't they simply undermined democracy as we know it?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly their goal with this plan I'm talking about to make sure that the vote that you or I or anyone else casts is irrelevant. It's to make sure that the system is designed in such a way that no matter how people turn out, the Republicans wind up in power. And they've already done that, like I said, to a large extent in the House. I ran the numbers on this and found that in order for the Democrats to get a majority in the House, they would have to win by more than 7 points in the national popular vote. It's not impossible. Democrats did it in 2008. They did it in 2006, but it's hard. It doesn't happen very often. And now you have the system with this election rigging plan that would make it even more difficult for Democrats to win the presidential race. Again, Obama won by 4 points. That was a commanding lead last November. And if everyone had voted the exact same way, if Obama had won by those same 4 points, but this election rigging plan had been in place last year, Mitt Romney would have still won the Electoral College. So the plan here is to make the votes that people cast irrelevant and put a huge thumb on the scale so that no matter what happens, Republicans wind up in power.
Yes, and manage to continue to appoint judges, Supreme Court justices, leaders of other agencies. The word was escaping me there for a moment. Excuse me. I think this could really change the entire foundation our country was built on.
Ian, this is Shane here. Couldn't there be, what worries me is we get to a point where we have an election and it's somewhat like Saddam Hussein getting 98% of the vote. It's a situation where the leaders really are not leaders and the people won't recognize them as such. So we have a situation in which you are the president, but we don't recognize you as such. What could happen in those situations?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that the Republicans who are behind this plan need to understand they're playing with fire. I mean, let's imagine the situation where Obama had won the popular vote by 4 points. He comes out, gives this great speech, everyone's super excited, and then it turns out that the Republicans have changed the rules so that Romney wins on a technicality. Now you've got two people, both of whom are claiming that they have a legitimate claim to be the commander-in-chief of the largest, most powerful military that's ever existed, both of which are claiming that they have the right to launch a nuclear strike with our arsenal. that's dangerous no matter how it happens. I mean, setting aside the politics of this, that there should at any given moment only be one person who can legitimately claim to be commander-in-chief in this country. And if there's confusion on that point, those are the things that bring down nations.
Right. That legitimacy, questioning the legitimacy of our elections as the world has looked into those countries, where the people do not want the person that's in power. And, their not only their electoral system is in question, but their currency, their, legal system, everything suddenly becomes questioned. And I just wonder if the Republicans realize what they could really start here. I mean, people are already angry. We're already seeing activism and protests and stuff increase throughout the country. What do you think could happen civilly, if they were to actually steal our democracy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much about
it
because it would be an unprecedented situation. And I mean, certainly the situation that I think would drive a bunch of people to go get their pitchforks. And that's why I think it cannot happen in this country. The way that you defend against that kind of civil unrest is you just making sure that, like, the person, there's no question about the legitimacy of who won an election.
Right. Some speculate that that's why Al Gore and John Kerry, didn't pursue the matter of possibly actually winning in those elections, is to not question the legitimacy in those instances. Just, a non sequitur there.
I mean, I'm glad that you brought up Al Gore. I'm glad that you keep bringing up the judiciary and the Supreme Court because, first of all, I think the Bush v. Gore decision shows how permanent the damage could be. If Republicans are able to entrench their justices on the Supreme Court, there's nothing preventing us from having another Bush v. Gore every 4 years. And second of all, the reason we have this gerrymandering problem, is, these decisions aren't as well known as Bush v. Gore, but there's been a number of lawsuits brought trying to challenge these partisan gerrymanders in various states. And the conservative justices are the ones who said no to those lawsuits. There's been 5-4 decisions with the conservatives in the majority saying, no, we're going to let these partisan gerrymanders stand. So the good news there is that if President Obama gets the chance to replace one of those conservatives, or if a future president gets a chance to change the balance of the court, we have a real opportunity to reverse all of these problems, get the Supreme Court to strike down all these gerrymandered maps, and to make sure that the party that gets the majority of the vote is the party that gets to rule in this country. So I'm excited about that possibility, even while I'm very frightened by the possibility that you could have a permanentization of Bush v. Gore if the Supreme Court goes the other direction.
Right. And now I also certainly hope that most of this is, needless worry. You write in the article about Pennsylvania House Republicans introducing the bill to actually change this, that only 7 of the House members have sponsored the original bill out of 109. So it's unclear whether this legislation is going to actually come to reality. Do you have any thoughts on that, if these bills are likely to actually succeed in many of these states?
I think there's a great deal of uncertainty right now, and it could go either way. On the one hand, this is a relatively new idea for most Republican legislators. You're not seeing huge amounts of them turn out to sign on to these bills. On the other hand, you have a big push from the top. You've got the RNC chair pushing for this. The governor of Pennsylvania supports it. So I think that Republicans are still trying to figure out what they want to do. And that gives folks like us who believe in democracy an opportunity. Because if they're uncertain and we spark an outrage now, if they realize now that this is completely toxic and they're not going to be able to get away with it, and that voters that state legislators who turn out and who vote for a plan to rig the presidential election aren't likely to keep their own political careers, then they won't do it. I think there's a real opportunity here through sheer force of outrage to make sure that this plan to rig the election does not happen.
Absolutely. We are speaking with Ian Millhiser of Think Progress. You can follow him on Twitter at @iMillhiser and read all of the stuff we're talking about over at thinkprogress.com. Now, I have several of your articles in front of me, so forgive me. I've lost the section that I wanted to mention, but did I read correctly, Ian, that this isn't likely to be challenged by the Justice Department or the Supreme Court? These type of election rigging changes to the Electoral College?
So the presidential electors plan itself, the plan to change them so that they're allocated by congressional seat rather than by the state as a whole, I don't know that there really is a constitutional challenge that could be brought. I mean, you might be able to argue that this is so egregious, and we have several Republicans on record saying that they're doing this in order to try to change the results of the presidential election. And so because they've communicated this nefarious intent, that makes it unconstitutional. But we've got the bad Supreme Court that we've got, and I'm just not optimistic that if this plan passes, John Roberts is going to swoop in and say, oh, I would hate it if there was a Republican in the White House, so I'm going to strike this down. I think that we need to rely on the political process here. We need to rely on making sure that there is such a tremendous outrage that someone would consider rigging a presidential election, that it becomes toxic, and not even the Republican legislators who are considering it now want to move forward with it.
Well, I think that's well said, and it's because of your work, Ian, that people are going to be aware of this and hopefully call Congress, call their representative, call, anybody they can, protest, do whatever they can to make sure that this does not become reality. Thank you so much for covering this. This is so important, and thank you for joining us and getting up so early with us on a Sunday.
Thank you.
Love speaking with you. Have a great day, Ian.
You too.
Ian Millhiser. You can follow him on Twitter at @iMillhiser. Never seems like we have long enough. We'll have to see if he'll join us for a longer segment sometime, because I could talk to him for quite some time. He knows
his courts and Constitution, boy.
Yes, and I know that makes you very happy.
It does. It makes me really happy.
Yes. Go and check
He
out...
explains it easier than I do. I get all screwed up in the words.
Go and check out his posts, and seriously, get active on this. It's a big deal. Over at thinkprogress.com. We're going to come right back in just a few minutes, and we still have Chris Lavoie coming up next hour. It's going to be a great morning. Stick around here on Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano, live on We Act Radio. We'll be right back.
Everyone expected just a piece of fluff, but we wanted to do something important. Issue stuff.
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
You never know who or what you'll hear when you listen to the Nicole Sandler Show at RadioOrNot.com.
Bill Maher, you're here in Miami on Friday night. You're doing a show at the Fillmore at the Jackie Gleason Theater. They just renamed this theater the Fillmore. And they put up a couple of psychedelic posters. So I guess...
Is it the theater Jackie did his TV show from?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What I hear they did is put up two of those old Bill Graham posters and renamed it.
Yeah, I can't think of two different icons of show business.
Yeah, really.
Bill Graham and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, why they just didn't play up the Jackie Gleason aspect, I don't know. But then again, this is South Florida.
Right. Okay.
Welcome to it.
I feel warm.
The Nicole Sandler Show, live Monday through Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, or podcast anytime at RadioOrNot.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show.
That right-wing Republican from Texas was only helping Dennis because he thought Dennis would be easier for Joe the plumber to beat than
Wow. Yeah, I mean, seriously, a pet rock would have been better candidate than Joe the plumber. I think he might actually have been a pet rock before he was a non-plumber. So, but he was a union pet rock, never mind. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
You know that the ice cream scoop has the power to make a child smile, and that by slowing us down, the traffic light can keep us going. You know that the golf tee brings friends together, that the mailbox keeps them connected. You know that the cataract laser helps you look to the future, while the pacemaker ensures that there's a future to be seen. You know that the lawnmower, the clothes dryer, and the elevator make life easier, that the blood bank makes life possible. You know that these things we count on every day started as ideas. But did you know all these ideas came from the minds of African Americans? Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro
We will
College
make it
Fund,
easier to keep
a
guns
mind
out of the hands of
is a
criminals
terrible
by
thing to waste. Please visit uncf.org or call 1-800-332-UNCF. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
The most important online radio station.
It's easier than ever to listen to SoFlo. On the air and everywhere. On any computer, any mobile device, iPhone, iTouch, and anywhere you are, just hit SoFloRadio.com. Tell your friends about South Florida's radio network, SoFloRadio.com.
Alright, express yourself. Express yourself.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle, and Shano.
That'll wake you up.
Yeah, we are just minutes away from Chris Lavoie being in studio with us. We are so excited. One of the sexy liberals. Shane, are you
He
excited?
did a great job last night, too.
He did.
My hero, my mentor, my professor.
Yes. And I think the Democratic Party should be pretty happy, at least that's one interpretation, of the Republicans finally saying they realize they can't hold the nation's debt limit hostage. Now, they're still going to try and manipulate it a little bit, massage it, say, we're only going to extend it for 3 months.
Let's have this fight for 2 years.
Yes. I think they just want to continue to have this fight over and over and over again until a Republican's in office.
Sure. Why not?
I mean, it's really interesting that those who have repeatedly blamed uncertainty as job-crushing and destroying economic growth now seem to want to live in the area of uncertainty, constantly pushing for temporary fixes, temporary deals. And again, Eric Cantor confirmed a report saying, next week we will authorize a 3-month temporary debt limit to give the Senate and the House time to pass a budget. Well, you haven't done it in how many years? So what's going to change in this 3-month period? Like, really? We should expect that now? Anyhow, I just think it's very interesting. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. I've heard spin on both sides.
Yeah, and I've also heard some details that seemed unsettling, yet, of course, it's a proposal. I don't know that it's in written form at this point. So it's hard to assess something we don't. Heck, there's less on it than Hank Paulson's 3-page, give me $700 billion, please.
Yeah.
As far as I can find so far, maybe there'll be some text coming out. It concerns me they put it on a Friday afternoon, Friday dump before the inauguration. They come in on Tuesday. My prediction, and I've been wrong many times, as everyone who listens to this show knows, I think that whatever this deal was to talk about, to get the debt ceiling in the conversation
during the inauguration,
and then the whatever this deal is will blow up on some poison pill on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm in the minority on this one. Everyone seems to talk about it as some done deal.
I don't see it as any done deal,
I'm
and
dubious
I
until-
honestly, I hope the president says no, pass the debt limit,
Crazy
no
stuff that
exceptions.
They had to pass the budget. If they don't get paid. And the fact that they don't get paid actually is against the
Constitution.
27th Amendment of the Constitution, which says you can't change your pay. This was actually to keep people from voting pay raises to themselves in the current Congress, but you can't change the pay scale. You can change it, but it is effective the next Congress, so it wouldn't be effective for almost 2 years, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And even when you have Darrell Issa saying, that's unconstitutional,
it's got to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, despite the fact that the last debt ceiling debate cost an estimated $18.9 billion to our economy and lost at least 1 million jobs, Republicans want to continue to play games. I don't really think that this is any different. I'm not quite sure how to spin it, but we shall see. I hope the president does not give in and tells them enough with their nonsense. The American people need some real action. So we're going to be right back here on Talking Left. I believe Chris Lavoie will be in the studio with us by then. We know he's on his way. So don't go anywhere. Thanks for listening wherever you are, over on We Act Radio, SoFloRadio.com, Progressive Blend, or thanks for checking out the podcast at TalkingLeft.com. We will be right back. Stick around.
It's Thursday, January 17, 2013.
It's an issue which will afflict us in the conservation community for a generation to come.
Interior Secretary Ken Salazar steps down.
Everybody in the citrus business right now is worried. Everybody.
Crop killer. Freeze hits California citrus. 2012, the 10th hottest year globally. EPA squashes fracking drinking water study. Texas goes after Oklahoma's water. Plus, no, it's not your imagination. Spring is springing earlier than ever.
All of that and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Climate's always changing, isn't it?
Yes, it's always changing, Stuart Barney of Fox News. I give up. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Des, in our last episode, I complained about how it was freezing out here in Los Angeles and along the West Coast into the desert of Arizona, and that meant global warming was over. Now it's going to be 80 degrees this weekend, so...
just 48 hours later.
You're back on. Global warming, it's back.
Dr. Jeff Masters of Weather Underground says that an extreme jet stream pattern is causing the record warmth in the eastern U.S. and the record cold in the west. Research suggests that the record loss of Arctic sea ice this summer is driving those changes in the jet stream, causing more frequent extreme swings back and forth in weather around the world.
Oh, I knew it. It's always global warming's fault, isn't it?
Well, record cold is a crop killer for California citrus.
That's a cold, hard reality.
This week, temperatures dropping into the 20s for a second straight night.
And that's a big switch from last year, where the record warm winter meant that spring was springing earlier than ever. A new study published this week, the first ever comprehensive survey combining naturalist records dating back 160 years, shows that flowers are now blooming earlier than ever in the United States. In record hot years like 2010 and 2012, the study says flowering of indicator species occurred up to 24 days earlier than in the 1850s.
And actually, I can attest to that in my own backyard.
And that record warmth drove the record drought that still has its grip on the Midwest and is causing record crop losses. And that means not only rising food prices, but also a record crop insurance bill for U.S. taxpayers. The Agriculture Department estimates total crop losses in 2012 will be about $16 billion. That's nearly double the amount paid out for crop disasters in 2011. The record drought is also impacting water supplies. Now, Texas is suing both Oklahoma and New Mexico to get a bigger share of fresh water supplies. 87% of Texas is in moderate or severe drought right now, and the Lone Star State is taking their cases to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Water wars.
Now, as we reported on Tuesday, 2012 was the hottest year on record for the continental United States, driving record heat waves, drought, and wildfires. But globally, 2012 ranked 10th hottest worldwide.
See, no big deal.
Since record-keeping began in 1880, the top 9 hottest years globally have all occurred since 2000.
Oh, well, that's not good. And that sort of goes against Greg Gutfield on Fox News and the little fit that he threw when Bob Beckel had the temerity to mention that this year was the hottest year on record in the U.S.
The global warming deniers, 2012 was the hottest year on record since
Lies!
in 1875.
In the United States, not the world. That's the United States warming.
Why do you get so excited
global
about this?
warming, which is, it hasn't happened in 15 years.
It hasn't happened in 15 years, Desiree.
Yeah.
Except for those last 10 years all being within the 2000s.
Fox News is a little confused about science.
Anyway, press on.
What the frack? In a bombshell exclusive, the Associated Press reports that the Environmental Protection Agency deliberately squashed an analysis that indicated fracking, the controversial natural gas drilling technique, caused methane contamination of water wells in Texas. AP obtained a confidential report showing that the EPA set aside strong scientific evidence of fracking-related contamination against a driller, Range Resources, after Range Resources threatened to withhold evidence and access for the EPA's ongoing comprehensive study of the impact of hydraulic fracturing.
Why would the EPA agree to withhold that information, to bury that study?
Apparently due to pressure from Range Resources.
Unbelievable.
Finally,
If this debate that is going on in Washington continues the way that it has started, I will tell you that conservation will be set back 50 years in this America.
that was the warning from Interior Secretary Ken Salazar at the Conserving the Future conference in 2011. Salazar announced this week he is stepping down. As Interior Secretary, the former Colorado senator was slammed by the oil and gas industry for mild reforms to oil and gas leasing and offshore drilling regulations after the BP oil disaster in the Gulf. Now, both the Interior and the EPA cabinet posts are vacant. Will Senate Republicans allow any new nominees for Obama's top environmental posts?
Not a chance. Watch.
I think we call that a snowball in hell.
Yeah, there will be no EPA director, I predict, for the next 4 years. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. For much more on all of those stories that we covered today and the ones we couldn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
This is Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Welcome back to Talking Left with me, Danielle and Shano. We will have Chris Lavoie in just a few minutes. But,
you remember what I said last hour that D.C. is bustling today?
Yes, there's a little more traffic on Sunday than usual.
There's something going on tomorrow. I've heard about it, just through the grapevine.
Yeah, little thing. Thing with a guy.
Yeah. Maybe see if we can get some tickets or something. I think it might be on TV even.
It may
Check
be.
your local listings.
Exactly.
Check your local
You
listings.
may be able to find it somewhere.
I don't know. Maybe it's all those TV trucks all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue. One of them might have it.
Yes, it is inauguration weekend here in Washington, D.C. We are live from your nation's capital. Thanks for checking us out wherever you're listening, especially We Act Radio, live in the nation's capital, doing some awesome inauguration coverage.
No doubt.
All this weekend. And
they were live streaming Progressive Democrats of America yesterday.
They are some busy, amazing
Yeah.
folks over there at We Act Radio.
No doubt.
We adore them.
Indeed.
So we're going to be speaking with Chris Lavoie, who opened for the Sexy Liberal show yesterday.
And
now
Jim. Now that we're out of the venue, I can say that I videotaped some of it. I know I'm not supposed to.
piracy. You're the next Aaron Swartz, you.
No, I don't have the brilliance.
Yes, but you did get some audio.
I did. We'll play it for Chris.
We're going to play it for Chris. We're very excited he's going to be joining us.
Jackie Scheckner was there.
Yes.
And Alan Grayson.
Yes, we got to sit next to Alan Grayson.
Tom Hartman was there. Carl Frisch.
Tina Dupuy.
Charlie Pierce was there.
Yes. Joe Madison.
Joe Madison, yes.
It was
chock full.
It was seriously.
was there. And our buddy who wrote
our intro, Mike Hardiman, Rocky Mountain Mike, was in the house rocking it. Big thanks to him. As always, we try and thank him every week because he wrote that awesome music you just heard a few moments ago, wrote and produced original music just for this show, but you can find a link to all of his stuff at his SoundCloud. It's at the bottom of every single blog post on TalkingLeft.com, along with links to his amazing photography site at MikeHardiman.com.
Yeah, it was good to finally meet him in person.
Absolutely. We're trying to drag him back to D.C. for a special visit to come in studio with us. So he had to rush right out of the city.
Yeah, he's got to get across the country today.
Yes. So you want some fun news, Shane?
I want some fun news, please.
Several people have been hearing about this, but it just makes you laugh.
Uh-huh.
Glenn Beck is starting his own city.
He's starting his own city?
Yes.
Is it going to be Glenn Becky Stan Stan? His own country?
It's going to be Independence Park.
Oh, yes.
Independence Park. Yes.
Freedom.
I think the rest of the country is just glad he's not going to be in our part of it anymore.
So he's doing Atlas Shrugged.
Yes.
All the billionaires are going to go live there. What will we ever do without the billionaires? Please come back.
I have a feeling he's not going to get so many billionaires.
No?
No, it's going to be a self-sustaining,
that's what I want to know.
Self-sustaining community called Independence Park. Provide its own food and energy, produce its own television and film content. Oh, I'm sure it'll be riveting. Okay, we'll wait to announce that. They're going to host research and development. It's hard to not say that without air quotes. And serve as a marketplace for products and ideas. My favorite part of this news, which is just hilarious, is that they're going to host a national archive and learning center where people can send their children to, quote, be deprogrammed. It is quite interesting. And I believe we have a special guest in the building. I have lost my co-host here. It's Sexy Liberal Weekend, everybody. But we do want to hear about your plans for Inauguration Weekend. Give us a tweet over at Talking Left. Leave us a message on Facebook. Let us know what you're going to be doing and what you'd like to see happen Inauguration Day, what you'd like to hear from President Obama. It's going to be an exciting day. We're really happy to be in our nation's capital for that event, even have family in town who came for the Sexy Liberal show, although they're telling people they came for the inauguration. Let's see if we can get Shano back here to actually run the board. He's very excited about our guest. Shano. Yeah, why don't we run to a break? I just lost you here.
Well, I'm busy.
We're laid back here on Talking Left. We're going to be right back. Stick around. Thank you for checking us out on We Act Radio, 1480 AM, WPWC in Washington, D.C. We'll be right back with Chris Lavoie and perhaps a surprise. You're going to have to stick around to find out.
Hey, it's Hal Sparks from the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide, and this is Talking Left.
No plans at all. Evil man's always transcending. Fighter like sheep, swallow everything. Always simpletons or pretending. We got no plans.
This is your moment of clarity from LeeCamp.net. We don't seem to be progressing anymore. Humankind is stagnant, at least in the countries I've been to, which is about 80% fewer than any non-American and 700% more than any American. The average American thinks that crossing the state border makes them an international man of mystery, James Bond because they drove from Wisconsin to Minnesota. But seriously, just go to a shopping mall this holiday season and tell me we're progressing. The things that 12-year-olds want for Christmas are the same things 35 and 40-year-olds want. Shoes, purses, video games, iPhones, movie tickets, revealing underwear. And even scarier is that sometimes it's the same video games and movies. I would also say that sometimes it's the same books, but books? Who are we kidding? Let's not be quaint. The only books that sell nowadays are about zombies, but the irony being that the reason we don't buy books anymore is because we're behaving like zombies. How often do you see a zombie taking in a good read? So you go to the mall with the masses of children and the kids they've birthed, and you hop on the elevators and the escalators that push us along on our little ride through pleather purgatory down to the 7th circle of taco hell. After fighting your way through the obnoxiously loud, you get slammed through a noxious cloud of chemical fog called perfume that your body both revolts against and finds alluring simultaneously. It's the smell of love and death, pain and sex at the same time. If you spray it on your face on a daily basis, you might pick up a hint of cancer, but that's a small price to pay to get nicely by a girl or guy whose neural receptors also can't resist the subconscious pull. And besides, if you don't buy that perfume or cologne, think about the message that'll send to the bunny rabbit who worked hard testing those chemicals just to help get you. If I were a marketing exec, I would create that campaign. Hey, think about how upset the chimpanzee will be if you don't buy this eyeshadow he spent his productive years testing just for you. He's blind now, all in his effort to get you done by some hot you've had your eye on. Show some gratitude and buy this bottle of. And the only sign of concern for the environment in this ridiculous materialistic game we play of simplistic desires is the eco bag. We have the option of buying for $1, so we can fill it with our piles of useless trinkets and environmentally disastrous electronics. All it does is paint over the vulgarity of our actions like Mount Rushmore skillfully chiseled into stolen lands. No, it's okay that I bought 3 cell phones in case I misplaced the first 2 and 7 pairs of single-use earphones. It's okay because I bought the eco bag. It's green. It's green. It's green. You know what green stands for? Environment. Plus the sign said that for every bag we buy, a Verizon employee will sing a song to a squirrel. That's right, that bag covers our crimes with guilt-free eco-ality. Kind of like putting a dead hooker in a biodegradable hemp garbage bag. The good outweighs the bad. That's your moment of clarity from LeeCamp.net. I'll be doing one show in New Orleans this coming December 7th. Get tickets at LeeCamp.net/schedule. And even if you don't live there, tell your friends who live in Nolans to come see me. I'd love to come to your town as well. If you run a theater or a comedy club, email me at LeeCampMail, MAIL, @gmail.com.
No plans at all. Evil man's always transcending. Fighter like sheep, swallow everything. Always simpletons or pretending.
Unfiltered truth, news, and opinion. Filter-free radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
You can always go back to Rome and Greece, and let's face it, kingdoms. You know, it wasn't until a couple hundred years ago that we realized that, hey, monarchies don't work. Let's think of another kind of system of governance. You know, it's something a little less hierarchical, if you will, at least concentrated power. Then again, when you're dealing with money, capitalism is about money and the exchange of money, then concentrated power works really well.
Radio or not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Progressives across the country are taking action, from Madison, Wisconsin to the Occupy movement. And now, Washington, D.C.'s newest talk radio station, We Act Radio. In this election year, Progressive Talk returns to our nation's capital. We Act Radio is proud to showcase the biggest names in Progressive Talk Radio, including Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, Bill Press, Ed Schultz, Sam Cedar, and original live shows from our Anacostia studios. Take Action News with David Schuster, Speak Easy with Kamon Freeman and Ron Pinchback, and The Inside Scoop with Mark Levine. Available on your radio dial and on the web at weactradio.com. That's We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Truth is our product.
Yes, we can.
Hi, friends. This is Tom Hartman.
This is Stephanie Miller.
Hey, this is Hal Sparks.
I'm Brad Friedman. I approve of Nicole Sandler's RadioOrNot.com.
Radio or Not.
Radio or Not.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com.
RadioOrNot.com. RadioOrNot.com.
Welcome here to the very first Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour of 2013, right here in our nation's capital.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Left. Yes, that was the one and only Chris Lavoie speaking last night at Washington, D.C.'s Sexy Liberal Show. And we're very excited to announce that we have an extra special guest in the studio as well.
There we are.
Hello.
Hey, look at that.
Good morning,
Wow.
Jim Ward. I get to give
like
Jim
it.
Ward sexy voice. Wow.
Oh, look at the bags under my eyes. That's sexy. Wow.
Yes, we are live in studio in Washington, D.C. with Chris Lavoie and Jim Ward of The Stephanie Miller Show.
Hey, Danielle.
You guys did an awesome job opening for the Sexy Liberal Show last night.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah, DC crowds are awesome.
It was like everybody everybody that it was famous was there.
Pretty much. We had Alan Grayson. We had Carl Frisch. We had Tom Hartman was there.
Tina Dupuis.
Tina Dupuis was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe Madison.
Yep.
It was incredible.
You and Shano?
Oh, well,
yes.
We don't really rate on that list. Thank you. We will pretend. We will pretend. Shane is over there having fun with video. It's not often that he gets to have two of his favorite people on earth in studio with us. We owe you guys, and of course everybody at the Stephanie Miller Show, the biggest thank you in the world, because you're our original inspiration, our teachers, the reason why we do what we do. And to be sitting here with you guys is a little surreal.
It's strange seeing you guys in person instead of on Skype.
Well, yes, there is a computer monitor between us,
Right.
Jim, but it is a whole different
Just to make it feel more
concept.
comfortable. Like,
Exactly,
as if we're looking
exactly.
at the computer
But
screen.
I in person now can harass Jim, and that is awesome. Wow.
Eat your heart out, ladies.
Yes. So you guys are here for the inauguration.
The inauguration. Yeah.
Are you excited? What are your plans for Inauguration Day?
Basically just we're going to be broadcasting right up until noon Eastern time, which is when the president takes the oath of office.
So you guys are going to be live on Monday.
We're going to be live tomorrow. Yeah.
How?
Yeah. From 9 a.m. until noon, and we're just going to be doing our regular show from 9 to 10, and then we're going to be like talking over, or I guess just talking over the stuff that's going on stage. You know, like the
Mystery Science Theater.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
That's my
so
favorite.
That's what we're going to do.
Awesome. And did you guys celebrate Gun Appreciation Day yesterday?
By accidentally shooting someone at a gun show. Did you hear about that?
Really?
Yes. Yeah. It's as Hal Sparks was saying, it's really telling that the one place that you're not allowed to bring a loaded
Is a gun
weapon
show.
is a gun show.
Right, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. I think that tells everybody what they know about loaded weapons being around.
Right.
Yeah.
And the NRA knows that there's a certain percentage of their people, probably a large percentage, that are out of their freaking minds.
That would be a nice way of saying it.
Exactly.
That's so diplomatic, Jim. Yes.
I didn't do a Nazi reference, so, you know.
Oh,
well,
there
I
you
had a
just
big-
did.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops.
Nazi
Okay.
references are fine on this show. We have a low, you know.
Hello.
Yeah,
Low
sometimes
threshold.
to speak in front of a
Sometimes-
microphone, Hitler.
Sometimes the shoe on the goose stepping fits or whatever. There's got to be some name for that boot.
Sometimes
Well,
if the
If
jackboot
the jackboot fits.
Right,
Where-
exactly.
There
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, goose stepping was great for German podiatrists. There's a lot of plantar fascismus going on in those days. It's a historical German podiatrist joke.
Of course, so...
All the rage, all the kids.
That's why Jim Ward's here.
Yes, absolutely. You can only get information like that from Jim Ward. I just can't believe you guys are here. I can't believe you're in D.C. I can't believe you're in the studio with us. I know Shane has been talking about this for 2 weeks.
I think it was like 2006 or 2007 when I first... started bugging the hell out of Chris Lavoie. I mean, I always joke I'm like that stray cat, that you accidentally feed on your back porch and it never leaves.
Well, you know what? The stuff you sent was so good that I couldn't ignore you. I had to.
He tried.
You, like a stray cat.
Yeah,
but
he's so cute.
No, but the stuff you sent was really good and really, really professional sounding.
I fooled you for years then. I have no business doing this whatsoever. Listen to Rocky Mountain Mike. That is evidence that I did not know what I was doing.
No, your stuff is up there with Rocky Mountain Mike.
He's amazing. It was so great to meet him.
Yes, it was awesome to meet him last night. He wrote our intro music for this show, original produced music, so that way we don't get hit with any copyright things on YouTube.
That's great.
I remember
friends with Katrina and the Waves or stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember.
Right.
I remember 3 years ago now getting a call because Shane was so excited to be talking to Jim Ward on Skype.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the tweet. I got to speak with one of my heroes on Skype today.
It is a little surreal, but it's
actually,
awesome.
A little fun fact, my very first podcast ever, the nightmare that it was, Chris Lavoie was the guinea pig. He was my first interviewee.
Really? When was that?
Oh, God. 2008, 2009, maybe. Oh, wow. And we pre-recorded it.
Yeah.
And I remember in the middle of the interview, I just lost my train of thought completely. You can't find that.
All of us.
And I was like, okay, I'll edit that out.
Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and run to a break real quick? We'll be right back here on Talking Left. We are live on SoFloRadio.com, ProgressiveBlend.com, We Act Radio, 1480 AM, WPWC in Washington, D.C., or, of course, thanks to everybody checking out the podcast at TalkingLeft.com. We'll be right back with more Jim and Chris, so don't go anywhere.
I'm David Schuster of Take Action News, and you're listening to my favorite show other than my own, Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
The moon sinks low on the horizon as though it's trying to hide. Frightened animals flee into the woods, even though nothing seems to be chasing them. Nature has turned topsy-turvy. It can mean only one thing. The legislature is back in session. I've seen enough state legislatures in action, Michigan, for example, Florida, and of course Wisconsin, to know that our Texas bunch doesn't have a lock on lunacy, but we certainly have more than our share of local lawmakers. Take George Lavender. Yes, please. This right-wing peer of the lower chamber became a hero of the Kooky Caucus in 2011 by sponsoring and passing a bill intended to save us Texans from an unspeakable horror, energy-efficient light bulbs. Because of a 2007 federal law enacted by that notorious lefty president George W. Bush, light bulb makers were required to produce high-efficiency bulbs to replace the old energy suckers. "Over my dead body," cried Lavender. It was his Alamo moment as he rose in defense of the holy right of Texans to waste as much energy as we damn well please. To counteract the big bad Fed's outrageous attempt to save energy for America and save money for consumers, Lavender's law invited bulb makers to set up shop here and freely produce the old-style high-wattage bulbs. Where else but Texas? Imagine how proud Davy Crockett would be to know that he died to make this possible. Unfortunately for Lavender, major bulb makers were already profiting from the burgeoning conservation market, so they had no interest in going backwards. The most disappointing thing to me, Lavender now says dimly, is that we haven't found anyone willing to put in a plant. This is Jim Hightower saying, and that's why the moon hides and animals flee when legislatures convene. It's scary to see so many 5-watt bulbs sitting in 100-watt sockets.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a production of Diversified Media Enterprises. I'm Doug Cunningham.
This weekend in Philadelphia, hundreds of labor and civil rights activists will commemorate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with a conference called We Are One, Workers' Rights and Civil Rights. The focus will be on the work the labor movement has done in unity with community groups nationwide to protect the vote and to expand workplace democracy. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's 1963 March on Washington that reverberated through the ages to the cadence of his I Have a Dream speech. Hundreds of thousands of people rallied then in a call for jobs and freedom. The Philadelphia Conference will honor Dr. King's legacy while celebrating the bond between the labor and civil rights movements. Nearly 15,000 Teamster Costco workers are voting on whether to approve a new 3-year labor contract. The Teamsters reached the tentative agreement with Costco on January 10th. The union says the deal keeps the thousands of Costco workers among the highest-paid retail employees in the country with the best benefits. Teamsters President Jim Hoffa says Costco is a good example of a thriving company powered by a strong union workforce that shares its success with its workers. The deal includes wage increases each year and strengthened seniority language. The current Costco Teamsters contract expires January 31st. The workers' votes on the tentative agreement will all be counted by February 19th. 32 billionaires and corporations were able to match dollar for dollar what small donors gave to the Romney and Obama campaigns combined. Jesse Russell reports.
A new report from Demos and U.S. Perg called Billion Dollar Democracy showed that more than 3.7 million individual small donors provided $313 million. U.S. Perg democracy advocate Blair Bowie said during a press conference on Thursday that nearly 60% of Super PAC funding came from just 159 donors, contributing at least $1 million. She also said that nonprofits who could protect the identity of donors were some of the biggest contributors to the campaigns.
Of the outside spending reported to the FEC, 31% was secret spending coming from organizations that are not required to disclose the original source of their funds.
The report also found that dark money accounted for 58% of the spending by outside groups on presidential television ads. Dark money is a term describing funds used in a campaign that doesn't disclose its sources before votes are cast. Bowie said the report finds that a handful of special interest groups have greater influence over the political process than tens of thousands of small donors.
The bottom line is that our current system provides plenty of opportunities for special interests to push their narrow, profit-driven policy preferences at the expense of the greater good for the vast majority of Americans.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
How high can you jump?
But you don't have to know every answer.
How many phone numbers are there?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
How do cell phones work?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
What's electricity?
They just need you.
What's the moon made of?
For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You say you want a revolution, well, you know, we all want to change the world, but when you talk about destruction...
Welcome back to Talking Left, the special inauguration edition with Jim Ward and Chris Lavoie of the Stephanie Miller Show in studio with us. Seriously, it doesn't get better than that.
Oh, I'm sure it could.
No.
Oh.
No. That's the top of the charts. I can go.
John Boehner here. Great TV.
I don't want to have to clean orange tears
There's a
off the
tavern
desk.
next door.
There is
Yes,
a tavern right next door.
supposedly that's John Boehner's liquor store. Just supposedly.
Schneider's
They
allegedly
have to
right
restock
there.
the shelves every other day.
Exactly. So before you guys
So
came
there's
on,
a kid working in there sweeping that floors who someday will weep as Speaker of the House.
Right. Yes.
It's kind of like passing the baton.
Weeper of the
you're
House?
going to be like me. Orange.
I wonder if he's a Grand Marnier fan.
It could explain the orange.
Triple sec, more like.
I still think it's vodka and Tang. But before you guys came on, we were speaking with Ian Millhiser of Think Progress about the RNC's new attempt to steal the election by changing the way electoral votes are counted.
Or not counted.
Or not counted. Yes. Depends on how you look at it. But what are your thoughts on that potential?
I don't see how that's legal. I mean, where do you get the authority to?
Well, they've been pushing for a long time. They've had some success in getting states to go all or nothing. And with a swing state like Pennsylvania that has a lot of electoral votes up for grabs, and all or nothing, if it has it become an all or nothing state? I'm not exactly sure if it has or not. But if that is an all or nothing state, and it goes to the Republicans get a lot of electoral votes. So I know that's what they've been pushing for. And now they're just really pushing for a lot of gerrymandering as well.
Now it's getting even worse, where they want to change the way electoral votes are counted, where one electoral vote for each congressional district and two electoral votes to the popular vote winner. So a state like Pennsylvania, instead of all of those electoral votes going for Obama, Mitt Romney would have essentially gotten 7 of those electoral votes for the 7 districts. And so it breaks up those swing states.
Yeah.
So virtually all of those gerrymandered districts are a guaranteed electoral vote for the Republicans.
Yeah. It sounds like, part of their 20-year plan.
Yeah.
To win by changing the rules instead of win on the issues.
Right. If you can't win honestly, just cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose an election, you could change your policies, but instead we'll change the rules so we win no matter what.
Right.
And the thing is, there's 2 states that already do it this way.
Yes.
And so we know it's constitutional. That's the problem. There's no court challenge to this because Maine and Nebraska have done it for a very long time.
But has it been challenged in the courts?
I don't believe so. But
maybe it should be challenged.
The Supreme, the Constitution says that the states shall send electors. That's it. And Bush v. Gore said there is no constitutional right to vote for electors. So the states, technically, if they really wanted to, said the governor is going to send the electors. I mean, it's so wide open. And
right.
It's frightening because that's what Ian wasn't going that much depth, but I think he has in his article saying there's not a lot we could do about this.
Right.
Wow. Other than just, getting up, standing up, and protesting.
Right.
Ooh, well,
scary.
Jim, you always love to dig deep into the possible motive behind, actions like this. Any suspicions?
Well, they just want to make it impossible for Democrats to win ever again. I mean, it's just amazing that it's structured that way that they can get away with that.
Yeah. I mean, what happens, they've already stacked the House with gerrymandering.
Mm-hmm.
They've stacked the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. If they steal the presidency, I mean...
As they've done in the past.
Yeah. What does that leave for the American people to do? I mean, shouldn't people
Canada, my home and native land.
Shouldn't people be out in the streets
absolutely.
about this?
But, keep in mind that if rules changed, they can always be changed back if people want it bad enough.
Well, would it be a state-by-state thing?
Yes, it is a state-by-state thing. Yeah.
And, I mean, my theory about their gerrymandering in the House, it's also hurt them as well as hurt the Democrats. Because it's the reason why now, instead of being able to have any sense at all on logical issues, they have to worry about being primaried from the right from these crazy Tea Partiers. And they end up, so out of step with even their own party.
Right.
So I think they have sown their own seeds at destruction by cheating. It's, if you're going to go
it goes
there,
both ways.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
absolutely does.
Well, look what happened to Karl Rove this time around. He was counting on his little shenanigans, and moving, shutting down servers at 11:14 at night, shifting into another state, and having them come back laundered so that Kerry was losing by the same number he had been winning. And it didn't work this time.
No, and many people think that it could have been because of Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen any. I haven't seen any.
But I think
statements from them, confirming that, except for their original letter, the day after the election. But I certainly think it's possible.
But Rove was obviously quite sure it was going to work again, except this time when the votes came back, they were the actual votes, and not the.
I mean, he clearly didn't expect the results that occurred.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
And yet Fox News just signed a new contract with him.
I know.
Despite being spectacularly, horribly wrong.
And word is that they just didn't want him to go to CNN. That was what I've heard.
Interesting.
Okay.
Why would CNN want him?
That's the bigger question.
Well,
we'll have to leave it there.
Because they need some personality on that network, I think. Rove has personality.
I guess that's one way to
David
describe.
Frum doesn't. You know.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's just my opinion.
But tell me it wasn't enjoyable to watch him melt down on Fox News. Yeah, there were progressive wine glasses cheering all over the country, I think.
And Saturday Night Live did a sketch that weekend where he comes in asking Mitt Romney for money, and he just throws him off the balcony.
Yeah.
I
loved watching him send Megyn Kelly down to the research room to double check.
No, these are the real numbers.
Yeah,
Progressive TiVos hit record all over the country simultaneously. I've got to save this.
Yeah, they didn't have Bill O'Reilly to run boob roll, so they just ran, Megyn Kelly's legs back and forth as much as possible.
Bill O'Reilly's reports from Hooters.
Yes, it's what it'll be. The Hooters report with Bill O'Reilly.
Exactly.
The Hoot Factor. Yeah.
The no twist zone. Oh, I'm going.
You went
no
there.
Spin zone.
Well, we have, of course, that was such a big story, and thankfully it turned out okay, and we're all here celebrating this weekend. What an amazing, just feeling going on in D.C. This is obviously our first time. We just moved here. Have you guys been to inauguration?
We were here 4 years ago.
Yeah.
For the inauguration. And it was cold. It was really, really
like sub-zero cold. It was.
Yeah, I think it was a high in the teens.
Antarctica cold.
Yeah.
But how is
penguins,
the mood compared to 4 years ago? Is it just as exciting?
It's a little more subdued this time. I'll be honest. Just because everybody was so excited to have.
It was such a historic.
Yeah.
And I think it still is. I think it was.
It's absolutely still historic. It's just not the big change, from the previous administration that we had 4 years ago. So it's a little more subdued this time.
And progressives have always been sort of shocked that Obama isn't as far to the left as Fox News tries to portray him. He's basically an Eisenhower Republican.
Yes.
And that's fine, but there are going to be some disagreements with the liberal base.
I don't think you're ever going to have, a purely progressive president.
No.
You're going to have a whole lot of them in the House, and
he'd be called prime minister if we did.
Right, but I don't think you're going to have a purely progressive president. I don't think the politics of America will allow for that, or even like a really, really far right president.
Well, let's hope.
I don't think you're going to.
The circumstances of the economy and things like that could bring a progressive president. Because it's kind of like the change that's hopeful, and then there's change that's painful.
We had one in the 30s.
Yeah, so it happened before.
Yeah.
So
well,
this guy isn't it. But
but if you ask Fox News, he's a Kenyan socialist Marxist who's now trying to destroy the Second Amendment.
Yeah, and I think his second election is more significant. It's kind of like it's easy to get the first date, but then when you spend an evening, it's hard to get the second one because now they really know who you are and what you're like. And oh my God, does he really pick his? But so we know
that move on me. What?
A drone strike? What? Really? That's so high school.
What do you guys think of his executive orders that are destroying the Second Amendment?
Oh, please.
You think it went far enough?
Just asking. They're executive orders asking for more research on issues and stuff like that. They're not executive orders to go door to door to take guns away, for God's sake. But that's what those on the far right will have you believe.
The fact that he hasn't taken our guns away is proof that he's going to do it.
Yeah. As we kept saying during the election, Mitt Romney signed way more gun control legislation as governor of Massachusetts than President Obama has signed.
Ronald Reagan supported, assault weapons ban.
There I went again.
Ronald Reagan would be a Democrat in today's party.
Well, absolutely. He was a Democrat at first.
Well, but you're absolutely
there you go again.
There you go again.
I like Jim's better. just say
agreed.
Yes, because it's not often I get to look at Jim and make sexy voices. Wow. It is interesting to watch all of their heads simultaneously explode on a daily basis over this gun legislation.
Yeah.
It's just, it's ridiculous. I mean, they've become simply there for comedic relief if they didn't have any legislative control. If they had no power, they'd be hilarious.
Right.
The scary part is they're elected officials.
Well, the scary part is people can be convinced by fear mongering. I mean, that's exactly the big lie theory.
That's as old as government itself.
But the absence of evidence is itself evidence. That they're going to take our guns away thing.
Yeah, you make that joke of the evidence that he hasn't taken our guns.
That's proof that he's going to do it. He's just waiting for us to
should be
let our
such a
guard down.
ridiculous joke, but that's actually what Wayne LaPierre and the NRA said, is that he's purposely been lax on gun control to lull you into believing he's not going to take your guns. That is just the most ridiculous.
While he's running them into Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's their whole argument with a national gun database.
The problem isn't the guns. It's Hollywood movies, juice. It's rap videos.
Don't want to be a dog to hear that whistle.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, Ann Coulter didn't even whistle it. She may as well put it on
You're
a
right.
billboard.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Skywriting.
You have
As
it?
you know, I just got back from England, which they have not bought into this whole diversity enthusiasm, which raises the important point that on the gun crimes, we keep hearing how low they are in Europe, and they're so low when they have no guns. If you compare white populations, we have the same murder rate as Belgium.
Right.
So perhaps it's not a gun problem, it is a demographic problem, which liberals are the ones are pushing. Let's get more Colin Fergusons and more whoever the guy was who shot up Fort Hood. Why are they coming in to begin with?
Idiot. You've never been to England, clearly, because London is incredibly diverse. Yeah. You see people from all over the world there.
What I heard in there was guns don't kill people, black people kill.
That's essentially what she said.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, why does anybody continue to give her a microphone? I understand
technically we just did.
But I understand she's a bomb thrower and she gets ratings and, she creates the arguments that people continue to want to tune in for. Yeah. But there comes a point where, putting somebody like that on your show is essentially saying that those type of statements are okay.
Well, it's irresponsible.
Well, it's like throwing kerosene on the fire.
Right.
And then starting another fire. But Stephanie actually knew her years ago and said she wasn't anywhere near that crazy. So you have to wonder if it's an act.
Oh,
but if
it's
it is,
totally an act.
It's an act.
She found a way to make a lot of money by being outrageous like that and selling books.
And getting people killed, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely appalling. And, I would think that Fox would actually at least not condone that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. The producers are probably giving her two thumbs up in the back room. So, all right, we are going to run to another quick break, and we'll be right back with just a few more minutes of Talking Left with Chris and Jim. We are so excited for them to be here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It reflects the drama of the human experience, and isn't that the essence of art?
It's Talking Left with Danielle and Shano.
Are you living in a progressive talk void? If so, be sure to visit leftwingradiostations.com. The state-by-state listing is a quick and easy way to find any left-wing talk radio station across America, from sea to shining sea. Your progressive talk nirvana is only a click away at leftwingradiostations.com. Be sure to like Left Wing Radio Stations on Facebook and share it with your friends. leftwingradiostations.com. United we stand.
Hi, this is Brad Friedman, your friendly citizen investigative blogger, journalist, troublemaker, muckraker, and all-around swell fellow from bradblog.com. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. 1 hour of troublemaking and muckraking ripped from the pages of bradblog.com and sometimes from the dark recesses of my mind. We'll have investigative interviews with newsmakers, we'll call out the liars, frauds, and phonies, and we'll even give kudos to the good guys if we can find any. Stories you won't hear anywhere else. We'll report on politics, elections, election reform, mainstream corporate media failure, media reform, global warming denialism, and everything before, during, and after. Join me for the Bradcast every Wednesday, now a full hour, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on Pacifica Radio's KPFK, and coast to coast and around the globe on kpfk.org.
You're listening
to and watching
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean.
With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
It's a redefining of the issue of not just the fact that, oh, it's my fault, I need to go buy a Prius. I should get an electric car. No. It's my fault for not stopping car culture as a whole. We don't need cars. We should have far greater technology right now than the internal combustion engine. It's a 100-year-old technology.
Where is my jetpack?
Exactly. But you get the point. The issue is far larger than just recycling or driving a hybrid. It's stopping the manufacturing of these systems, these industries. They need to stop. We will never have national health care guaranteed as a right for all as long as we have insurance companies that make money off of us. So the insurance companies need to go away. We don't need insurance companies. We need health care. It's the whole health insurance reform. What a lie that is, because we need health care reform. And the list goes on. So it's redefining the issue and redefining the argument.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
Arr, you mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the seven seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag? By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
SoFloRadio.com remains on the air with free archives thanks to the support of our listeners. Help keep us on the air by clicking the donate button on SoFloRadio.com. And thank you for your generous support.
I'm a loser, yes, beautiful loser. I'm a loser, baby.
Welcome back to the last few minutes here on Talking Left. We are live on SoFlo Radio, RadioOrNot.com. Of course, We Act Radio, 1480 AM, WPWC in Washington, D.C., with Chris Lavoie and Jim Ward of The Stephanie Miller Show. It doesn't get better than that. And we're in the studio speculating about what Mitt Romney's up to this weekend. Any thoughts?
I have to admit,
Pumping his own gas.
I have to admit that loss hit me really hard. So hard, I almost felt an actual human emotion. I believe it's called sadness. What's that, honey? Stop it. Stop it. This is hard. I've developed a drinking problem. I'm up to 6 cups of Swiss Miss instant cocoa a day. Oh, what? It has caffeine in it. Uh-oh.
Somebody needs to reprogram the MitBot.
Yes.
Reprogram the MitBot for what happens when you're a loser. But hey, if you ask Tag, he didn't even want it anyway. It's like, God. You're lucky my dad even campaigned for you guys.
Yeah.
Who says this?
The Romneys, apparently.
I mean, is that normal, everyday talk? You expected the American people... I mean, how does that sound to your campaign donors? He didn't even want it anyway.
I don't
Gosh.
What? You took him
He's got the
seriously?
money, and bye-bye.
Well, you want your money back?
He cashed the check.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
Wow.
Max Midroom.
Yes.
That's
no,
exactly...
Looks like Max Headroom. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the name of it, Mitt Headroom, of the file.
Yeah.
Please stop.
I speculate.
Please stop.
I speculate he's out there somewhere, yelling at Ann and the kids.
Yeah.
Trying to pretend like everything's fine because he didn't want it anyway.
He's going to show up.
Who
actually.
wants
But he
that?
was denied probably like Secret Service or something. He'll come in a trench coat, try to sneak his hand on the Bible.
Probably not a good idea this weekend.
Show up with lawyers and a subpoena. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
I don't even think he'd lift a finger to do that because you could tell he just did not want the job.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even come here to sneak his hand on the Bible because
It
that means he
wasn't
might get the job.
It wasn't a concession speech. It was a relief speech.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, thank God. I don't want that dang job.
Dodge that bullet.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't write it probably because Anne wouldn't let him. It seemed like that was the one.
Stop it.
This is hard.
Just stop it.
If you want to try, get in the ring.
You can't put an elevator garage in the White House or a car elevator.
Car elevator in the White House.
Yeah.
They'll add a second floor.
We were just at the White House. There's not a whole lot of room for a...
Yeah, I've heard that it's very small on the inside. Is it?
Okay, we
it's
had
cozy.
We had a tour of the West Wing, which was amazing. And, downstairs we got a tour of the Situation Room. And it's small. The ceilings are low. The doorways are not wide at all. And but
they make good cookies down there, those Keebler Elves.
Yeah. But we got to sit in the room where that famous picture was
Right.
taken of, everybody watching the Bin Laden raid.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, that is...
Teeny tiny little room.
Yeah, and the room looks a lot bigger in the picture.
It really does. It looks like a big room.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
but
why
it's not.
Obama's always sitting down in every picture. Is
That
he
could
like
be.
about to
Right,
hit the
ceiling,
roof?
right.
Yeah.
It's like John Malkovich, the floor 7.5.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
The duck. Yeah.
Wow. And that was amazing. You got private tour by two soldiers, right?
By two soldiers. In fact, one of them was the founder of Outserve magazine, and we talked to him a couple of years ago when he couldn't reveal his identity because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And it was finally great to meet him yesterday, find out his real name. His name is Jonathan Mills, and he founded Outserve magazine, and he works in the Situation Room, so he arranged a private tour for us, and he was our tour guide. And
that's so
cool. And he's
cool.
the Air Force guy stationed in Germany?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
He's with Air Force Intelligence in Germany, which is what my dad did in the early 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were there last night.
There's just a few...
and they were there last night as well. Yeah.
There's just a few military brats in the room here. But we do salute our men and women, servicemen and women very much. And I'm so glad that they can serve openly. The National Cathedral now performing gay marriages. That is some awesome stuff. It's only,
It's happened so quickly, it seems to me.
I know, like head-spinningly quickly.
Yeah.
Well, because it seemed like the country was really ready for it. And then finally the legislation caught up.
Yep.
Right. I mean, no matter how conservative you are, no matter how homophobic you are, everybody has a friend, a family, a coworker that's dealing with, not getting the same civil rights as the rest of people.
Absolutely.
Some friends of mine are socially conservative, and they say, well, okay, they can have the
Civil
union, but just don't call it marriage, because some people are just oogie about it still, because it means something very specific to them. It's not that they're evil people or anything. It's just that they were raised that way.
As John Fugelsang says, if they care so much, then start fighting straight divorce.
Exactly.
Because over 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Yep.
Why are we stopping the people who actually want to stay together?
Yeah.
No doubt.
It doesn't make any
The
sense.
Supreme Court has it in 2 months.
That's right.
Couple of-
Shane is the Talk Radio News Supreme Court reporter now, so he gets to go and sit in the Supreme Court and hear all the arguments and cases.
So
and,
awesome.
And I get to sit on my hands and not flip off Scalia.
And the one day you didn't show up,
What?
Thomas actually spoke.
Oh,
That's
no.
You didn't hear it.
For the first time in 7 years, he spoke up in court.
So it's like if a tree falls in the woods.
Well, the thing is, I'm surprised you knew how to use the
Keep
microphone
your
button.
elves die.
Do they have to press a little microphone every time they want to talk?
I could go on about these. It's hilarious. I actually respect each and every one of them. Kagan the most.
Yep.
I love her.
That's just because you have a crush on her.
Breyer is like the Charlie in the box. Okay? He talks like this.
Nobody likes to play with
He
a
has all
Charlie
these
in the box.
hypotheticals. And half the time he doesn't turn on his mic, so Sotomayor has to reach over and turn his mic on.
Oh,
it's awesome.
He's actually Ed Wynn. I love to laugh.
And have you heard all about Sotomayor's new book?
Yeah.
She was a bouncer in college.
I did not hear that.
Yes!
I knew she had a book coming out, but no, I didn't hear that. That's
Bouncer?
awesome.
Yeah, she was a bouncer at a bar near Yale.
She's a badass.
She is.
Well, but how out of control does a bar near Yale really get?
She said she had to kick a lot of townies out because they would climb through the window to avoid paying cover.
He threw Ben Affleck on his ear.
Yeah.
She just swore in Biden this morning.
Yeah,
we're
that's
halfway to the
awesome.
show.
Wait, it's probably minutes away from, isn't it noon today that Obama's getting sworn in the Blue Room?
Yeah.
So minutes away, I wonder if
This is
there's
the
gonna be
official constitutional swearing and then the public swearing in is tomorrow.
Very
I
interesting
wonder if
stuff.
Justice Roberts is going to bring a little cheat sheet this time so he can get the oath right.
Yeah, somebody's going to bring him a prompter, I think. Yeah.
That's what one of those screens going down the road was for. It'll be in those big orange lights.
And what's any big surprises for the show this week? Just election,
Just
inauguration coverage.
Yeah.
And you guys leave D.C.?
We leave D.C. right after the show on Tuesday, and then we we have an unusual show set for Wednesday because Stephanie's actually going down to Charlotte to celebrate her mother's 90th birthday. And so it's going to be Jim, me, Jackie, and Hal for all 3 hours in studio.
Oh, that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
If Hal's there, we don't have to say thanks.
Exactly. And we're probably going to be dead tired from traveling.
Yeah.
So just, turn Hal on
I'll be
and
lying
let
on
him
the
go.
floor,
Yeah.
The House Sparks program mega worldwide.
Right, exactly. But we love Hal.
Oh, absolutely.
He's
He's so
I had a
much
blast yesterday. It was all I had to do was dial up and sit back and laugh.
And,
for 2 hours.
Wind him up and let him go.
And think. I mean, he always does a really good job of putting together many things that you wouldn't think go together.
Well, you know what he said about the tyranny argument of gun control is the most sensical, true statement I've heard.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with that and you're saying you want to fight the tyranny of government, you're telling me you want to kill cops or soldiers.
Right.
So which is it? And if you're okay with that, yeah, you shouldn't have a gun.
It's the whole Tea Party tricorn hat fantasy of tyranny, taxation.
Don't tread on me.
Don't tread.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
okay, in practical terms, what does that mean?
Jim and
take on
Chris-
an Abrams tank?
Yeah, seriously. Take on a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming in studio.
Thank
it
you
was
for
so
having
exciting.
us. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely.
This was the awesome.
The awesome. I highly doubt it compared with the White House, but thank you for joining
It
us.
was.
And thank you guys for listening. Thanks to our other great guests.
Ian Millhiser.
Kyle Shank and Ian Millhiser. Thanks to Nicole Sandler, Alex Lawson, Kimon Freeman, Pete Callahan, George Rodriguez, Daniel Marins, Mike Hardiman, everybody listening. And those on WEAX, stay tuned for Mark Levin. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We've got a best of next week. Have a good inauguration, everybody.